Hey, I'm on the edge of my seat here, back again with another brand new video, and today I'll be no damaging the entirety of Silent Hill 2 on hard difficulty. However, there's two different difficulty levels. Just a basic difficulty levels for the enemies, and then like a riddle puzzle difficulty. Both of them will be on hard, giving an overall hard difficulty playthrough. So for my title, I'm not going to like differentiate between like the puzzle hard and the other hard because they're both on hard and we're both gonna be going there. And I will have to warn you, I will be skipping some cutscenes, like that one right there. That's a very pivotal cutscene in the game, just because other people's walkthroughs tend to be around 3 hours or so, and I did kind of want a bit of a shorter walkthrough because other people's like no damage walkthroughs just included all the cutscenes. I'm going to be more middle of the road, and by the way, I'm going to be running in the middle of the road here for quite some time, so I'm going to be yapping a little bit here. I will be skipping some cutscenes, other cutscenes I won't be skipping. For the most part, I'm basically going to let every single pre-rendered cutscene play out, and I'll talk more about that later. But right now we have the beginning of Silent Hill 2. It's very oppressive. The sound design is fantastic. I don't think I'm going to stop talking to let you kind of like soak it in, but the game just kind of leaves you very isolated. Not much happens here, so on repeat playthroughs, this could kind of drag a little bit, but that first time playthrough is just absolutely memorable. You just don't know if something's going to attack you. It's a very sobering feeling, and like this road is so long. Like this is something which the developers talk about in this making of documentary that was included with the original games like DVDs or whatnot, that they made this section so long so that you wouldn't want to turn back because, you know, you've already like walked so far. Like what's the point in going back? You know, it's like it gets into like the headspace of James. This game's just really great at like characterizing everyone, and like some of the characters could be a little bit like one note. Honestly, I'm just thinking about Eddie. Everyone else has a lot of dimensions to them. Eddie also has dimensions to him, but I think compared to everyone else, I do think he's like maybe the least interesting of the cast. But he still really brings like this very aggressive, like oafish like behavior, like just flavor to the game. It just adds a lot. It's a great game. It's a really great game. It's like one of my all-time favorite games. Perfect? No, but I'm still giving this game a 10 out of 10 in the grand scheme of things. I really don't think it does anything wrong, which would pretty much like bring points against it, because like whatever it's doing wrong, I think it does something else which just equalizes the playing field. But there were some points I really wanted to mention before I reached Angela, but not Angela, right? Oh man, I'm fucking up her name like only 2 minutes in. I should probably start talking slower. No, her name is Angela, and another great thing about this game is that all the environments are just like super detailed. There's a lot to soak in like every single corner of this game, and it's going to be a little bit bad that I'm pretty much going to be rushing through the entire thing very quickly. So there's going to be some beautiful rooms filled with so much texture and like story and world to talk about, and I'm going to be pretty much in and out of it in like 5 to 10 seconds. So honestly, I mean, this is a game where you can kind of stand in one place and just keep looking at it, and you just notice new things. It's very beautiful. See, I'm gonna run up and take this chainsaw here, and I'm not gonna lie. I really don't know if you can only get the chainsaw on New Game or New Game Plus, because the chainsaw, I thought I was gonna pick it up just for the lulz to show you that sometimes there will be a chainsaw there, and I wouldn't use it in this playthrough. But there was one specific moment, and it is very much one very specific moment where I end up using it, and you'll see how that ends up. And it is actually very useful for that one specific moment, but I'm not 100% sure if this is like a New Game or a New Game Plus thing. It is a New Game Plus thing, so yeah, no, for that one specific moment, if you're playing this game on New Game and you wanted to help to no damage that one section, this video is not going to be helpful. Oops! But yeah, the reason I was talking about why these areas are so detailed is because I wanted to mention that the bathroom that you start the game in is actually the first area that was modeled in Silent Hill 2, and like I was saying, like a majority of the areas, you can literally spend less than 5 seconds in it if you really wanted to, but take a little bit of time to just look around. There's so much detail and grime and filth, like in that like making of documentary, like in the DVD of the original Silent Hill 2, like the developers was kind of like the art director was kind of talking about how he wanted to create this vibe of like repulsion but also attraction. So yeah, a lot of the areas you're going to be visiting are going to be very nasty, but there's like an element to them that's just like very appealing to look at. Maybe not appealing per se, but like very interesting, very intriguing. It keeps you like looking. And a lot of this is due to the interiors. The exteriors have a little bit of a different thing going on, but the exteriors, just this fantastic fog just blocks most of what you see, so you just feel very isolated. And yeah, like a lot of the framework for this is pretty much set up in the first game, but now we're on the PS2, which means the fog looks better, except, this is not technically the PS2 version. This is the PC version of the game, which originally was broken. However, I've modified it with an enhanced edition mod made by a fantastic team. The credits of this team will actually be at the end of this video, so You get to see every individual name, which helped out with making this beautiful model, which makes my PC version of the game actually functional, which, to be fair, the original PC version of Silent Hill 2 isn't exactly like abandonware. Now, what is abandonware exactly? Oh yeah, by the way, this is going to be a little bit of a scripted sequence. Not too scripted. You can actually kind of like go off the beaten path a little bit, but you pretty much have to like follow your objective to find this one enemy. But yeah, abandonware is just kind of like games that you just can't play normally anymore, even if you own them physically. For example, the original physical PC copy of Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow, that's abandonware, because even if you buy an original PC copy of Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow, you insert it into your PC, you install the thing, and like everything's installed and everything's ready to go. The game's gonna ask you to go to a certain website which doesn't exist anymore, which makes like your copy useless to use unless you literally crack and pirate the game. So it's like, what the fuck is the point? So, you know, if Ubisoft isn't gonna give you any other alternative, the only way to play Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow on PC in any real legit good way is to pirate it. I'm sorry. The same thing is not true of Silent Hill 2, however. For one, you can like get the game running on the original disc, and there will be a ton of issues and like just a myriad of problems. But then once you have the original copy running, you can actually install this mod, and it will just work like butter. Like my PS5 controller just immediately synced up. It was beautiful. Like there was no struggle whatsoever, and I'm just so happy that it was that easy. I was not expecting it to be that easy. Anyways, here's the first enemy of the game, and with this first enemy of the game just appearing, I have to shout out my main guide for pretty much no damaging this entire game, Carcinogen SDA. His videos have also helped me no damage Resident Evil and other horror games along the way. And he has a specific strat for that one enemy, you know, because you have to kill that enemy. It's like the first forced kill of the game, which involves kind of strafing around it, and it looks kind of wacky and weird. And from what I played, it just isn't necessary at all. I mean, did you see the way I just beat him up? I just ran to that enemy, did 3 heavy attacks, and that did the job perfectly. And I just don't know why Carcinogen like SDA didn't do the same. I mean, the enemy design in this game is pretty random. Like, it has quite a bit of randomness, so maybe that's why he did the strafing strat instead of what I just did there. But for my testing with the first enemy, I just don't think it's necessary. You can just run, 3 heavy attacks, be very quick about it, and then boom, he's down for the count. So the directions in Silent Hill 2, you will have to kind of know where you're going. Right now, we're hunting for a key to open the apartments, which will be the first big main level of the game. This game is kind of separated into running around the open world. I mean, it's not really an open world per se. You're actually quite restricted in a lot of like subtle, fun ways. But there's the open world sections, and then there's like the Zelda dungeon-esque sections. You just pretty much enter a little like place. You have to like go into every single door, find key items, mix them together, use those mixed items on another door to open like another thing to expand the level, and you just kind of keep going in that motion over and over and over again until you exit the place or like reach the boss fight, defeat the boss fight, and then leave the place. It's honestly a very comfy loop, and I'll elaborate on that more later. But there's other things I wanted to mention before I reach this point. Honestly, this game is very fast-paced. Like, a lot happens in like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Like, and like by the time I reach the final level, the video is gonna be like in an hour 10 or an hour 20, and like it's just like that's the only time the game really slows down. To be fair, that's like the time where I let the cutscenes really play themselves out, like in the finale, because that stuff is really climactic, and I just kind of felt like it would be a shame to skip it. But yeah, no, very, very fast-paced game. Very little time to breathe. Though, it's kind of ironic saying that about Silent Hill 2. I mean, hey, I do plan on no damaging Silent Hill 1, 3, and 4, but I feel like those games are a little bit more tight because a lot more stuff is happening. You have to be stressed about a lot more things than Silent Hill 2 on a moment-to-moment basis. I mean, the exploration in Silent Hill 1, there's like flying enemies like very early on. Like, that shit just complicates things very quickly. But you may see that when I was picking up some healing items and some ammo, like near that one shop, I avoided one car in particular, and that one car had an enemy like wriggling underneath the car. That is because that enemy is a fucking asshole, and if you get way too close to that car, the enemy will just kind of shimmy around on the ground very quickly and hit you. So you have to stay very far away from that car, because if you don't stay far away from that car, he's gonna shimmy to you and just pretty much hit you, clip you, bada bing bada boom. Watch out for that. So yeah, this is a segmented run. This shows you that this is actually my first save of the run, so whenever we stop to do those little moments, that is my segmentation. And so far, what I have to do in this apartment isn't too complicated, and I was able to kind of like memorize it like mentally. But there's gonna come certain points like later in this game where like the paths I have to remember get a little bit too complicated for me to just remember off the top of my head. So I actually started writing them down in notes. Like I started writing down directions. So like step 1, go here. Step 2, left, left, right, right. And then like every step will be like divided by what rooms I have to enter, or just what objectives I have to do. And also, so yeah, first thing we have to do, get the light. And then once we get the light, we have to actually leave it turned off, because if you have the light turned on, enemies kind of like hone in on you and attack you very, very quickly. But if you have it off, enemies, not only do they not hone in on you, for the most part, you can kind of run past them and they won't attack you. I mean, it does depend on the enemy. Like those patient enemies, which, vomit at you, they just won't vomit at you when you have the light turned off. But that's only if you're rushing very quickly past them, because even if you have the light turned off, there is still a chance that the enemy will vomit at you. So you have to be very quick about navigating these areas. And the thing about hard difficulty, I have my issues with the hard difficulty of the original Silent Hill 2. I honestly recommend do not play this game on hard, and I'll elaborate more on that later. But one thing is the hallways, like the enemy density gets so crowded. Like it's just like it's more packed than like the CTA Red Line in Chicago. Like shit is ridiculous. Oh, that's a really funny scene. Check this out.
Ow! Hey, wait! Damn it.
I really hope what I'm doing is like understandable enough that I don't have to like over explain it, because I want to mention something which isn't directly related to what I'm doing right now. Basically, when I first played the PC version of this Silent Hill 2, I actually physically bought like a PC version of this game back when I was in high school. And back then, it cost like $100, $200. And well, if it cost that much back then, it should probably cost like $300, $400 now. That was like back when the PS2 copies of Silent Hill 2, like 2, 3, 4, cost like 30 to 40 each. That is not true anymore. Like PS2 copies of Silent Hill 2, 3, and 4 cost like $120 to $140. It is fucking ridiculous. I blame Konami and resellers. I hate the fucking state of where these games are at. It is miserable, because I think these games should be like a museum. They're masterpieces, and people can barely access them. Like the only like logical way is to like pirate them, unless you were able to get copies of these games like normally, like way back in the day. And honestly, me being in high school at this point is basically way back in the day. So it's absurd, man. It is utterly and completely absurd, and it just makes me so mad. But yeah, back when I had the PC version of this game, I did like a weird ass process to make the game run in like 1080p, and without the sound looping, I had to like, disable a lot of like my cores. Like my laptop had like 6 cores running, and this game only wants you to have 1 core running to make the sound not loop. And it just resulted in like some weird in-game cutscene madness. Like this game, like the game was still 4:3-ish. Like the way I modified the game to be 1080p did not solve that issue to stretch it out on my big like 16:9 screen. So on the PS2, there's like certain cutscenes where you wouldn't see James. But on PC, because like I made the game like wider without accounting for the fact that it was 4:3, I could see like James in the left corner of like certain cutscenes waiting to get activated. Like he's just like a robot. So it just kind of ruined the appeal of certain cutscenes because I didn't like modify the game correctly. But thankfully, the Enhanced Edition mod has none of these issues, and it just runs beautifully like straight out the gate once everything's installed. It's just a fantastic thing, a really, really fantastic thing. Yeah, I really thought I was going to be able to yap about this game more before reaching the clock puzzle, but now I want to tell you about my issues with the clock puzzle. Not exactly my issues, but just like my experience with the clock puzzle here. So, yeah, no. If you want to know how to solve it, I mean, I already just solved it right there. Clock puzzle on hard difficulty. Hour hand at 9, minute in between 1 and 2, go backwards, it's easier that way. And as for the clues you get on hard, here's like the little poem, here's like the little riddle. A lot of like Silent Hill's like puzzles always revolve around like riddle me this, alright? So, riddle me this. 3 needles stand of 3 different heights, the fat, the tall, and the thin. From slow to fast they move to the right. Scott rests not on 3, but 15. That shit doesn't make any fucking sense. I'm gonna be like straight up with you. Like honestly, like the most useful like clue in that entire section is there's like an image you can like look at. Like there's scratches on the wall. There's 3 distinctive scratches on the wall, and they kind of look like clock hands, and just looking at those for a long enough time should clue you in to like what to do with the clock. That's like the best you're gonna get. That's what helped me the most, because the poem didn't make any fucking sense to me. Like I didn't know like what to like make of it. So that, and also a lot of the puzzles, like when I was like replaying this game just to kind of get fresh with it again, A lot of it I just kind of solved by random chance. I was just kind of fucking around with the puzzles and then just immediately solved it. For this no damage run, I am kind of following a guide and already know all the answers ahead of time, so I just kind of input them. But when I was just playing the game normally without doing stuff like that, holy shit, dude. Like, there was one very specific puzzle, which we'll get to it. It drove me fucking nuts. I was there for like 20 to 30 minutes. It was asinine. And the puzzle wasn't even like that complicated. It was just like, it was so simple that it was easy to miss the easy solutions. But now that we've reached the second half of the apartment, this is like the part where I started taking notes on like how to navigate this place. So let me tell you the notes which I wrote down as my objectives for the second half of the apartment section, and here they are as follows. I mean, I already did a lot of the steps already ahead of time, so get out your notepad and like just backtrack and forward track however you need to. So yeah, step 1, go to the pyramid room. What's the pyramid room? Well, the one where he does the nasty there. Step 2, grab the ouch key. Step 3, the ouch key is the one where you got your hand stepped on by Laura. And Laura, she's just not a very likable character in the beginning because, she's a brat, bro. Like, she's always fucking with your shit. But then again, once the game is done and, like, the morality of, like, every single main character, she's easily, like, the most innocent. I mean, she's a child, bro. She hasn't done anything wrong. Like, every other character is, like, a murderer, like, just, like, amnesiac, like, psychopath. Every single other character has, like, more shit going on than Laura. This section here. So, step 3, go to the other building for canned juice. Step 4, get baby stroller coin. This is the baby stroller coin, okay? And I don't really have a direct strategy for this because like the strategy which Carcinogen did was just like too complicated and like time wasting. I didn't like it. So I kind of just randomly jump in after waiting a little bit and hope for the best. That's my strategy. I'm sorry. This is like probably the most painful section of like the whole part here. So then I hope you're keeping track of all the steps here and just writing them down on your own notepad. Step 5, meet Eddie. We're meeting Eddie right now. So the directions for this part in particular, I'm not too descriptive with it. I'm just kind of like writing down my objectives. I think like just having my objectives in my head, like the order in which I need to do them was enough for me. Later on, my directions are going to get a lot more direct. Get excited for that. So then after we meet Eddie, there's step 6, use canned juice. Now what does use canned juice mean? You have to go back to like the second floor of like the previous building or the other building, go to the trash chute that's kind of like clogged up, and then use the juice to unclog the trash chute, right? Then there's step 7, go left on second floor. It's important. Step 8, go to exit then downstairs. Step 9, go left for Angela. That'll be the part where you go to Angela's room, so on and so forth. Step 10, coin puzzle near exit. Step 11, upstairs, go left to door with sign, and then by that point you'll reach like the next save point, which is the save point right before the boss fight. And in between these steps, there's like things which I have decided not to write down because I already knew what to do, or like, in the process of doing one step to the other step, I would already run into the other objectives in between all that, and it was just kind of intuitive for me. But if it's your first time playing this game, it probably won't be intuitive for you. And also, maybe you shouldn't be watching a no damage video for your first playthrough of Silent Hill 2, but hey, if you just want to have fun and chill, then yeah, let's do it. This game has a fantastic atmosphere. And yeah, since I am playing on the PC version, there is a couple little things I wanted to get out of the way. For one, I want to mention how the making of documentary, mind you, the way I saw this documentary, I don't own that DVD, but there's like a YouTuber called like Fungo. It has like a little orange like PFP. If you just look up like Silent Hill 2 documentary, there's like a 39-minute video or so where it's like just the guys talking about the game, the developers of the game. It's an official documentary from the company, so on and so forth. And it's really insightful, and it just gives you a lot of like tidbits. It just makes you more appreciative of the work that went into this masterpiece. But yeah, the documentary is like, it's talking about like the grainy filter which the game puts over itself. I think it's called the noise filter. And they're just kind of like, oh, here is how the game would look like without the intended grainy filter. And they kind of show you footage of them like working, like coding the game on their computers, like in their office, and then turning that filter off. But it's kind of weird that they would spend time showing that off, because from what I understand, when you own the game, you can just do that yourself. You don't really need this documentary to figure out how the game would look without the filter. But I'm also not sure if that's like a PC only thing. I don't know if you can do that on the PS2, so on and so forth. It kind of confuses me. But for my walkthrough here, I'm going to leave the noise effect turned on because I think it makes the fog like look better. Also, this safe puzzle here, it's random. So like the numbers you get from the toilet will be random. I mean, like it's not too hard. It's just Roman numerals. So yeah, VV, just that's 5 plus 5, that's 10. So that's 17. Like, that's how it works. So, you know, if you have a 10 there, just put the 7 into the 10. That's 17. And, you know, the X is 10. Just pretty much work that out. And also, like, the little arrows just kind of show you the direction where you need to, like, move the numbers. So, you know, if it's, like, 17 and, like, the arrows are, like, greater than, you know, it's kind of like Pac-Man, but his back is to the right, then you just turn it right after you put in 17, and, you know, vice versa. And then this just gets you a fuck ton of ammo. And you're going to need a fuck ton of ammo, even though... at least for the Pyramid Head fight, you're going to need a fuck ton of ammo. On the hospital level, which comes after this. Okay, so those enemies right there, they're a little bit more devilish than the patients, the vomiting guys, or the vomiting women. I don't know, they're kind of like androgynous, those things. And also with this game's like themes of like repressed like sexual desire, I feel like a lot of these enemies do tend to be like more feminine to represent like James' like psyche. The game gets fucking complicated. But the thing with the leg enemies is that unlike the puking ones, you can't just run straight past them like willy-nilly. You actually have to kind of bait out their attacks or run past them and have enough space that their attacks won't land on you, because they're more the type that even if you have the light turned off, if you get close to them, they will like do one attack. But it's easy to just kind of bait that attack out and then run past them. So yeah, we've reached Angela, and then we kind of got this iconic scene, fantastic music. I'm going to skip that one part there, sadly. We got our next coin, and we're pretty much like headed to, you know, pretty much do the main coin puzzle. And the main coin puzzle, I was kind of stuck on it on my recent replay. It wasn't too bad. I mean, I pretty much like fiddled around with it to the point where I just randomly got the right answer, because like the poem didn't make that much sense to me. I think now is the time where I'm gonna have to like read the poem, except I put the poem in my outline, and I gotta like actually reach that point in my outline. Coin puzzle, riddle, hard. So yeah, the solution is Old Man in slot 2, Snake in slot 4, Prisoner in slot 5. Look at the name of the items in the inventory, because I thought the prisoner was just a blind woman, and I kind of made the poem like harder to understand. I did not think she was a prisoner. I don't even think it's a she, so I don't even know. But yeah, the clue on hard is, first lies the seat of he who is peerless, silent and empty, heartless and fearless. Beside him sits one who knows, the place of the servant is next to the throne. Dozens of feet, yet not a single toe. The one that is hidden beneath them doth go, seducer of dreams, creature of Hades, lying further from man and closer to lady, man and woman seeing all. Heedless to the raven's call, silent and hidden the two may be. They be not there for you to see. Return to them whence they would be, and blessing shall descend on thee. I speak thus with the North Star behind me. The birth of the sun is the start of the story. It is confusing to know who the prisoner or the old man or what spots need to be empty. Like, basically, I don't think I actually solved the riddle itself. I just kind of fiddled with the coins enough to the point where I just accidentally put them in the right places, and that's how I solved it on my first playthrough. I mean, yeah, this no damage run, of course, following a strategy. I already know all the answers ahead of time, but actually solving these riddles, it's beyond me, bro. I don't even fucking know. But yeah, no, the pace of this game is so fast. I mean, like, the way I like organize this outline is not doing me any favors whatsoever. Like, holy moly. Like, my previous no damage, Alien Isolation, was like so much like it was like a lot easier to babble in that one, because the first 30 minutes of like that game is just a tutorial. But the first like 22 minutes, we've already beaten like one of the 5 big levels in the game, and a lot happens. I mean, a lot of story also happens, and to be fair, I am skipping all the cutscenes, while in Alien Isolation, a majority of the cutscenes are in-game and just unskippable, so that is kind of like, you know, adding to this vibe. Honestly, if I didn't skip the cutscenes, we probably like reached this point 40 minutes in, but I did kind of want a bit of a shorter video, and 2 hours and 28 minutes is still not exactly a short time. So yeah, for this Pyramid Head fight, I thought that the strategy was not shoot him, because, you know, he just leaves if you just stand around in the room for like a long period of time. However, that long period of time is like 5 to 10 minutes, but if you do shoot him a bunch with bullets, he'll like go away quicker. Like, he'll go away in like 30 seconds to a minute, instead of like the 5 to 6 minutes you have to kind of like be in this room and like, you know, not shoot him. It does take a fuck ton of bullets though, which means you do need to open that safe to get up a lot of bullets. It takes around like 40 to 50 bullets to take this guy out, and shooting this guy with the pistol slows him down enough where you can kind of like unload 2 to 3 clips in that starting corner where you begin, and yeah, once he starts going that way, you can just kind of leave. So yeah, actually a very easy fight if you know ahead of time what it is. But this game, okay, Silent Hill 2 specifically, even compared to like its other games, doesn't really have that many threats. Like, the enemies aren't that hard. I mean, honestly, like, they're all kind of like have a weird submissiveness to them, so they're not as like devilish as, say, the flying fuckers from Silent Hill 1, or the gargantuan motherfuckers from Silent Hill 3, or the ghosts from Silent Hill 4, right? Silent Hill 2 is probably the easiest game compared to like the other like first 4 games in the franchise. But it does such, I mean, like, all the other games are also fantastic at this, but the way this game kind of like puts you on edge with its sound design, like, and like, you know, its implications of what could come, what is like beyond the fog, you know, like, what's in the dark corners that you don't get a good look at. It's fantastic at that. So the game always has you thinking, oh fuck, there might be something actually dangerous, like beyond the things I don't see. But in general, that's not exactly true. There really isn't that much danger in this game. So yeah, that's actually the specific cutscene I was talking about before. When I was playing the original PC version all those years back in high school, I actually like fucked up like making the game 1080p. So that cutscene was just like way too wide on my PC monitor, my laptop monitor technically that time. Now I actually do have a PC, so I'm able to record 4K footage of this game. Very neat. So yeah, I just saw James like in the corner like a robot waiting to get activated, you know, waiting for the right time to walk into the Laura cutscene. And there's just so much like other like flavor text I wanted to talk about before reaching this section, but we're already here, so I gotta speed it up real quick. So yeah, no, I'm going to keep the noise filter on, like the noise effect on, because I think it just makes the fog look better. However, from what I know, the best fog effects are still on the original PS2 version of Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 is kind of infamous for having really bad ports. I have not heard great things about the Xbox port. The PC port is pretty abysmal unless you mod it, but once you mod it, it's pretty fantastic. But still, even with modifications, it seems like it doesn't have the best fog compared to the original PS2 game. Like, just like the architecture and like the way they coded this game for the original PS2 is just so specific, and also they lost the source code of the original game, so that's like a whole topic with like the HD collection. There was an HD collection that was released for like the PS3 and Xbox 360 version, and it is widely considered one of the worst ways to play the game. You're better off just emulating the fucking thing instead of like touching those versions. Do not touch those versions whatsoever. No touch zone. Fuck that. I mentioned that like originally when I was in high school, the PC, like a physical PC edition of this game would cost like $100, $200. However, I did not buy it for that price because I got really, really lucky. I was just like scouring eBay for like a copy, and I just found this like one random French copy of like Silent Hill 2 like director's cut for PC physically for like 50 to 60 bucks, and I just bought it back then. And like that's me getting really lucky back then. I feel like that same sort of luck now will get you a copy for like $100, $200 because, you know, there is nothing good in this life as it goes on. Like, holy shit, dude. Like that, like the state of like Silent Hill 2 and like 3 and 4's prices like out in the West for the originals is more depressing than like the actual games themselves. Like I just cannot stop harping on it. It drives me loco. It drives me nuts, man. It drives me nuttier than Eddie. Like just thinking about like the preservation of like these original masterpieces. Oh man. But there was more things I wanted to mention. For example, like, yeah, the noise effects. So, like, I want to leave this turned on for my walkthrough. I mean, I think it makes the game look more oppressive. But yeah, whenever you, like, pause it, it could look like you recorded the game with, like, a digital camera. And, like, you set the ISO too high. So, like, the noise is, like, a little bit too crazy. But, honestly, it also kind of, like, makes things less detailed. But, like, the less detail, I think, just kind of adds to the more oppressive vibe of the game. So, yeah, in normal gameplay and when you're in-game, like, whenever you're in the in-game cutscenes, I think the grain looks really great. But one thing which I'm not fully rocking with is that I don't know if the grain is part of like the pre-rendered cutscenes. I think like the grain in the pre-rendered cutscenes kind of takes away from their detail. But honestly, I'm a little bit conflicted with that because like the grainy textures, like, you know, making like the pre-rendered cutscenes, you know, like the little CG cutscenes which are not in game, like, you know, taking away the detail from those honestly makes them a little bit more lifelike and a little bit less surreal, because I feel like if you take away the grain, like the grain filter, like the noise filter, you kind of end up in a situation where it looks like too smooth and they end up looking a little bit too doll-like, if they aren't already too doll-like, like by the standards of like what CG technology is today, and also just more like, I guess, like high detail CG technology from back then, which to be fair, that was like what, 2001? That shit is fucking crazy for 2001. Like 2001 was like Toy Story came out, dude. The humans in that look fucking miserable. But yeah, no, the CGI cutscenes in this game, there's another detail of them which is just like absolutely jaw-dropping. Just like the team that worked on the original like first 4 Silent Hill games are absolute wizards of technology. Like, just, it cannot be understated just how phenomenally talented like that original crew is. And hey, people who make games are just phenomenally talented all around, but like that original like silent like team or whatever, they had a specific name. They're fucking crazy, dude. They're actually like insane monsters, like beasts of the form. Just absolute artistes. And there's like a couple names that I really want to shout out. They are kind of like the famous names, but I really need to shout them out. This is like one of the only in-engine cutscenes I'm going to let play out. I really love the way that James says this one line. It's kind of a meme line. But yeah, no, ooh, it's a very important point in my outline. Let me get to it. Sato Takayoshi is an absolute beast. I gotta tell you, he animated the pre-rendered cutscenes of Silent Hill 1 and 2 all by himself, and that's a fact served me right, which is just fucking insane all around because it's gorgeous work. It's some of like the best looking like just pre-rendered animation from that era for the PS1, for the early PS2, mind you. Just the development of like the jump from the PS1 to the PS2 is fucking crazy. And also, I've heard kind of rumors of the certain like working situations of this team were just kind of shit. I'll elaborate more on that later after I let James do his bit.
This town is full of monsters. How can you sit there and eat pizza?
She said she was fine by herself. She said a fatso like me would just slow her down.
Forget you.
This is such a dense game, and trying to commentate over it, what is practically a speedrun is maddening. Like, this is a fantastic example of just a really detailed area. Is that bowling alley? You just go there for like a story objective, then boom, you dip. I mean, like, you could do that, or you could stay there and just soak it all in. Like, it has one of my favorite tracks in the game. I think it's called Alone in the Town. It's, like, probably one of the happiest songs in the soundtrack, you know, comparatively to everything else. Just, it sounds fantastic. It got a fantastic vibe. Akira Yamaoka, I mean, I wanted to mention him later for other things, but yeah, no. Fantastic job on the soundtrack. Just, he does fantastic work all around throughout this franchise. Even on the bad games, he does fantastic work. Though, to be fair, I can't really talk too much shit because I haven't played the bad games. I've only played the first 4 Silent Hill games because I pretty much heard that they're the best ones. I haven't really, like, ventured too far into, like, the other territories, per se, if that makes any sense. Yeah, Heaven's Night, like, this one kind of, like, seedy, like, strip club sort of place, or bar, like, strip bar, I don't know. Fantastic location, everything about it, just, and the music, just ethereal shit, man, I'm telling you. And I don't mean shit in a negative way, I mean, like, this is the shit, this is awesome, dude. But you can kind of just go in, go out, and that's all you have to do. But right now, I'm just gonna get a medkit I don't need. Well, actually, I kind of need it because there's going to be one piece of forced damage. It's like story damage. You sadly can't avoid it. It seems like, okay, Silent Hill 1 has one. Silent Hill 2 also has one, except Silent Hill 1, it happens at the beginning of the game. Silent Hill 2, it happens in this next level. But yeah, no. I don't know what YouTube video I pulled this from, and I don't know what source they pulled this from, but I just kind of heard that Konami kind of treated the team like trash when they were making Silent Hill 1, and that was kind of part of the reason why Sato Takayoshi kind of like ended up animating every single pre-rendered by himself. Just kind of like the management was kind of complicated, and he was kind of the only guy to do it. I don't know, some weird thing like that, and I don't even know if it's true, but that's what I remember hearing. And another insane thing about the pre-rendered cutscenes is that motion capture was not used for them. Like, that was all animated by hand. The rest of the game uses plenty of motion capture, though, including the in-game cutscenes, gameplay animations. There's a lot of motion capture there. But the pre-renders, nope, that was hand-animated with CGI. Also, if you want to get the Maria ending, don't bump into her. That's what I heard. Except, spoiler alerts, I'm going to end up getting the Maria ending. I did not intend to get it, but I guess for some reason my choices ended up with me doing the Maria ending. But one of the things they tell you to avoid doing is bumping into her, and well, I just bumped into her, so yeah, avoid doing that. So yeah, now that we're in the hospital, I'm pretty sure I have like directions on how to like solve this part, but oh my goodness, where are those directions? Alright, here are my notes for the first half of the hospital. Go! Step 1. Okay, get your notepads out. We're going to write everything like very detailed. Okay, so step 1. Exit and go left, then right. To go to the 3rd floor, by the way. That's just kind of my clue there. Step 2. The code is 1328, and I hate this T-puzzle. Holy shit. Oh, wait, we're gonna go up and, like, this is the T-puzzle right now. Holy shit, dude. This thing is fucking obtuse. Like, the clues for it are fucking bullshit. It just amounts to, they made a T-shape, but there's only 4 buttons? What? And, you just have to fucking, like, kind of fuck around with it until you get it right. When I was, like, replaying this game recently, like, on my walkthrough section, like, go to, like, my Silent Hill 2 walkthrough part 3, minute 50, you'll understand how frustrated I was. It was, like, fucking, I spent, like, 10 to, like, 20 minutes just stuck on this one exact puzzle, and I just kept fucking around with it. And even when I solved that, I didn't feel like accomplished because it was fucking bullshit. That drive me fucking insane. That's gonna drive me to like the other world in Silent Hill 1. Like, that's gonna make me start imagining some fucked up monsters. That one puzzle in particular, dude, it drove me fucking insane. Man, I fucking hate it. So yeah, once we're done with step 2, there's step 3. Go to the 3rd door on the left. And then step 4, go to the 2nd floor and cut left to last door. Step 5, go near the stairs to the big door. Step 6, go to the 2nd door on the left. Step 7, go right to door with blue stripe for code. Step 8, go to the roof. Step 9, go to the bloody room for code. By the way, Once you're in step 9, you will have taken force damage. We're not there yet, but, you know, that will be a thing that happens, letting you know ahead of time. So then, step 9, go to the bloody room for code. Step 10, exit, then go right towards big door. Step 11, go to the last door. Step 12, go to the left door after the chairs. Step 13, go right to the elevator. Step 14, go to the first floor to room C3 for ammo, then C2. So yeah, this code you get here, it's random. So you kind of always have to check it. Though to be fair, if you know all the combinations of the code, you can kind of brute force it, you know, by inserting every single different combination, but you just go to that room, you get that combo, and the same thing with the bloody room. That code is also random. So it seems that I might be on step go to the roof and take damage. So yeah, those are all my steps. So yeah, you go to room C3 in step 14, and then you go to C2, and then they'll activate the mid like level boss fight of this section, and it all happens very fast, but I've already told you every single step. So yeah, if you wrote that all down in your notepad, you should be able to do the first half of this level decently well. I mean, maybe like my notes aren't as intuitive to your brain as they are to my brain, so on and so forth. But yeah, there we go. Here's the force damage. And once I take this damage, I'm going to open up my menu and immediately start healing as much as possible. Also, throughout all these steps, I skipped getting the examination room key in the hospital because you don't need it. Thank you, Carcinogen, for letting me know that I really don't need that key, because the only reason you would get that key is to get more shotgun bullets. And to be fair, more shotgun bullets do help, but I also just want to have a quicker walkthrough, so I just kind of skipped that room entirely and just basically like eliminated an entire step, because in order to take advantage of the extra shotgun bullets, you have to like return to the first floor in the middle of all those steps when you don't really need to go to the first floor for extra shotgun shells. So I just skipped that entire step entirely. So if you're wondering why I did not get the examination room key, that's why. It just gives you extra shotgun ammo, and I was just kind of like, who cares? So yeah, I skipped it to save time. Also, when I told you all these steps, I actually wrote every single one of these steps on a really small notepad, like physically with a pencil, because I heard somewhere that when you write on paper, like physically with a pencil, for certain people, it just kind of makes you remember it easier. So I just kind of put in that extra work to kind of like get better at memorizing this stuff. Even though I didn't technically memorize it, I had like the little notepad right next to me when going through the levels, but also I kind of did have to memorize it because looking down at the notepad and back to the game, I mean, I just didn't have enough time to do it. I was always like in a constant rush. Like this game, you know, for whenever you have to like do stuff like back to back to back, it has a very fast pace. Like, here's a big old puzzle, and mostly like involves using items you have and then 2 codes. So it's just a really big box, and honestly it's a pretty funny box because you have to do all this work just to get a strand of hair, and you use the strand of hair to combine it with another weird item to like pretty much like get an item in another room. Like a lot of the puzzles in this game are either riddle me this, or it's just like adventure game like logic using like weird ass items for like weird ass doors or weird ass locks per se. And honestly, like the gameplay loop is very comfy because, well, the way I'm playing like this game now for a no damage run is absolutely not the way I play it normally. Like just playing this game normally, you know, not knowing what to do ahead of time. Like I'm pretty much just like bumping into every single door. It's a locked door, it's a locked door, it's a locked door. Just like bumping into every single room, trying to figure out which room is useful, which room is not useful, which room is locked, and then just figuring my way out throughout the level. And that gameplay loop, that normal like first time gameplay loop is very comfy to me. Though I'm not gonna lie, there was like the horseshoe thing, which happens in the prison, is pretty fucking crazy. I think on the first time playthrough, like back in high school, I didn't know what the fuck to do. Also, I should probably elaborate. My first like 4 playthroughs of this game, like I've replayed this game like 6 to 8 times throughout my entire lifetime. I think this is my most replayed Silent Hill game. The story just really got to me. It was just a beautiful story, man. And just like the experience of it, just it was really easy to go through, and it was kind of comfy. Yeah, like the gameplay loop was kind of comfy to me, just exploring these like Zelda horror dungeons and whatnot. So it got really addictive to just kind of like keep replaying the game over and over again, you know? Like it was kind of a soothing game, honestly. Just like I'm sure there's like a better, more poetic way to express that, but yeah, no, just really wanted to like mention that. So I actually borrowed like my friend's PS2 back in high school, and I bought the PS2 games myself, but I borrowed his PS2 to play them. So I got like a copy of Silent Hill 2, 3, 4 for like 30 to 40 bucks each. I played through those, and yeah, I did play the first Silent Hill. I played it on the PS3. There was like a digital download for that for like $9. So if you have a PS3, that one is like easily, you know, like gettable legally, right? You know, and back in the day, getting Silent Hill 2 and 3 and 4 legally was also not that hard. It was only like 30 to 40 bucks each back in high school for me. That is not the case anymore. It is depressing. So yeah, we reached the boss fight part, and the boss fights are kind of a weak point with Silent Hill 2. I don't think they're all terrible per se, but there's nothing all that crazy going on with any of them. They pretty much have, for the most part, they have the same complexity that a lot of the boss fights in the original Resident Evil 1 have. And mind you, I'm talking about my experience with the remake. I never played the original Resident Evil 1, at least not yet. I've played the remake, but the boss fights are basically the same. They're just kind of like ammo sponges, right? You just kind of shoot some ammo into them. If you have the ammo, you shoot it. If you don't, oopsie daisy, you're gonna have a little bit of a harder time. But if you pretty much like have some ammo on standby, you should be able to do this fine. Oh yeah, this game has like 2 different control styles. And I think right now I might be using the tank controls. Very like later on in this video, I'll try to use the 2D movement, but for the most part, the tank controls are like the best controls in the game. You only really use like the 2D movement if you're doing something very specific or if you're planning ahead of time. But normally the tank controls are the best controls for this game because like the camera is like constantly switching around or like jumping around. So when I press forward, I need to know that like my character is always going to go forward in the exact same way, because when you do like the 2D movement, like that like moves the character like, you know, in conjunction with the way the camera is facing him. When you're doing tank controls, if you press forward, the character will always move forward no matter what you do. And also, the tank controls gives you access to like some certain strafing strategies for certain boss fights, which I do not do in this video, but Carcinogen does it for like the second to last final boss, but I do a completely different strategy, so that doesn't really apply. But yeah, no, I just thought it was important to mention it. So yeah, you only really do the 2D movement if you're doing something very specific with like certain boss fights or in certain areas, or if you want to do something like, if you want to make it easier while also learning, you know, how to like not make it harder for yourself. I don't think I'm doing a very good job of explaining all of that. But anyways, let me give you a little fun fact, and it does involve running in this game. When you run into walls, James will do this bumping animation, like, you know, bumping into a wall animation. It's like nearly the same animation from like the first Silent Hill 1, except Silent Hill 2 kind of changes things up a bit in the sense that like this bumping animation only happens when you play the game on hard mode for some reason. It's actually absent in normal. You can just run straight into a wall and James will not do that animation, but on hard, he does it. In the original Silent Hill 1, that's not the case. You always do the bumping into a wall animation when you run into a wall. And I guess that just makes normal a lot easier because, you know, the bumping into walls animations can kind of screw you over like in Silent Hill 2 on hard. But to be fair, Silent Hill 2 is generally an easier game than like the previous ones, but there's certain like niche situations on hard where bumping into walls just becomes the biggest nuisance ever. So yeah, not getting the extra shotgun ammo kind of makes this fight harder because now I have to use a lot of my pistol ammo. Though to be fair, the Silent Hill games in general, except for maybe 4, are very liberal with the amount of ammo they give you. Like, compared to Resident Evil, like, you just have, like, complete stockpiles of it, you know? And also, the infinite inventory definitely makes things easier. So, yeah. This boss fight, it is kind of an ammo sponge, but it's also one of the more interesting ones in the game because, you know, you have, like, the 2 things chasing you at the same time. Not a gimmick that they won't repeat, but, you know, it just kind of introduces itself here, and it's just really interesting to see it play out. And then once you defeat these 2 things, boom, a 3rd thing. It's like, oh my goodness. The pistol just has weird properties. Like, the pistol is probably, like, one of the best weapons in the game, just for its hit stun alone. Honestly, the shotgun kind of sucks in the sense that, like, you know, very rarely, I mean, on hard mode especially, will one shotgun blast kill an enemy or a boss fight. And that one shotgun blast also won't stun the boss fight long enough for you to get away and not get hit by the boss or the enemy's like next attack. Because what usually happens when you use the shotgun against a boss fight is that you'll fire off one shot, it'll barely stun the enemy, you'll still be stuck in the animation of shooting the shotgun, and the enemy will just run up to you and hit you. It's very frustrating because I just honestly, like, the ammo situation in this game gets very, very silly. In like the final 20 minutes of my video, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Honestly, those final 20 minutes might be like the only time I'll get to like yap without having to like get stuck in the mechanics of what's happening in my speedrun right now. Anyways, I gotta talk about the mechanics of what's happening in my speedrun right now, because now I'm gonna talk about the notes I took to get through this section of the game. Wowie zowie. Alright, get your notepads out, and I have not gone to the section of my outline which has these notes, which honestly I should have prepped ahead of time. This is a new section of my commentary. Oopsie daisy. Okay, I think I have it now. Oh, no I don't. Oh my goodness, okay. I really gotta speed up here. Come on, come on, come on, come on. I got it. No, first half of hospital. Here we go. Okay. Here are my notes for the Evil Hospital, or Hospital Part 2. Go! Step 1. Go to elevator to 2nd floor. Already did that. Step 2. Last door on the right. Step 3. take elevator to 3rd floor. Step 4, last door on the left. Step 5, take stairs to bottom. Step 6, afterwards, take stairs to red note, aka the 3rd floor. Step 7, door on the right. Step 8, take elevator to 2nd floor. Step 9, last door to the left. Step 10, elevator to 3rd floor. Step 11, go left to left door. Step 12, do puzzle box, then solve. Whoa, wait. Wait, there's another puzzle box in the evil world? I could have sworn I already did the puzzle box. I don't know exactly what puzzle box we're referring to now. I'm actually a little excited to see what it is, because I actually don't fully remember what it is from memory. Oh, and maybe the puzzle box might have been like the little fridge thing I opened? No. There's going to be a section of this hospital which I did not include in the steps, because what I have to do is pretty straightforward from like step 12 onwards. But I don't know, yeah, what is the puzzle box? I guess it's going to be like a certain item I need to get to progress through the game, so on and so forth. Yeah, I'm about to find out. But yeah, no, I hope you took note of all those steps. You got your little notepad or your red notepad, and you got it in like black marker or maybe like white like marker for red notes. I don't know if that'll like be very readable. Oh, this scene is fantastic. I gotta let this play out in its totality.
James.
Mary? Oh, Maria. It's you. I thought you were... Sorry. Anyway, I'm glad you're alive.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway? You don't sound very happy to see me. I was almost killed back there. Why didn't you try to save me? All you care about is that dead wife of yours. I've never been so scared in my whole life. You couldn't care less about me, could you?
No, I
Then
just...
stay with me. Don't ever leave me alone. You're supposed to take care of me. So, what about Laura? Did you find her?
Yeah, but... she ran away.
We've got to find her.
I think now will probably be a good time to talk about the voice acting in this game. It's always kind of been a bit of a contentious thing about the original Silent Hill 2. And now that the remake's out, it's become even more contentious as people kind of start going, this is better, that is better, so on and so forth. I'm going to save my comments about the Silent Hill 2 remake. I'm just not going to comment on it too much because I haven't played it, so, can't really say too much. But I'm really not a big fan of how, because the remakes come out, people have just kind of treated the original as disposable. Like, oh yeah, just play the remake, that's enough of a substitute for the original. Nah, I don't really fuck with that attitude because, the original has kind of been like a masterpiece for the last 20 years, and then suddenly, like, the last couple days or weeks, now that people are just like, oh, this is really shit, this is really bad. Hey, here's that one clip of the Eddie fight. Yeah, no, this is why the remake is a million times better. It's like, I don't fuck with that attitude at all. But I'm also not going to say anything too bad about the remake until I get my hands fully on it and no damage it myself. Though, I do plan on no damaging Silent Hills like 1, 3, and 4 first, before hopping on the remake, and then I'll give my opinion then and there. But yeah, now back to the voice acting in the original game. Oh yeah, actually before I get to that, we have this little talk show host thing where, if you listen to this entire thing in its totality, it's going to give you like a lot of questions, which will give you like, the answers to those will be the code for the puzzle box at the end of this section. The puzzle box, it just gives you a fuck ton of ammo if you get the code right. If you get the code wrong, they spray you with poisonous gas and you don't get to have the ammo. It's a one-time thing, so if you fuck it up once, you can't do it again unless you load a save. But yeah, no, so I would say 90% of the voice acting for me in this game, I think works beautifully. However, like 70% of it is really awkward. Like, it does sound like the actors don't really know what they're saying. They kind of sound like they're like, talking like through the fog. But given that every single character here is like delusional as hell and just like wrapped up in their own little foggy worlds, I think that kind of like awkward, detached, like kind of like amateurish like acting works fantastic for this game. A lot of people have kind of like attributed the style a lot to like a very Lynchian tone, because a lot of David Lynch films, a lot of those characters don't really talk in a natural like way, but it just kind of works to like amplify the surreal tones of his films. And a similar thing is kind of happening here, though I will say in a lot of David Lynch's films, the actors are kind of doing better performances. They're like very experienced actors, like they're going in a very specific path. Anyways, here's the puzzle box. So yeah, I would say like 70% of it is really awkward, but I think it works really well for the characters. And then there's like this 20% where like, I mean, honestly, a lot of the 20% comes from Maria. I think she has like the best acting in the game. Like her actress is really great. I mean, I just showed you a scene where it's like, you know, James and her, they're kind of in the fog, you know, they're just kind of talking, like, you know, they don't like sound like they're all fully there. And then Maria just suddenly gets mad at him, just like throws that accusation. Like it's like it just cuts through the fucking fog. You know, ever see The Bear season 2? It's exactly like that, dude. And you on like the facial animations in that cutscene, like the way James just kind of gets surprised when like Maria just like lashes out at him. It's like, oh fuck, he looks scared, dude. Like look at the way the eyes like kind of like widen a bit, dude. It's just fantastic animation. But yeah, no, just like because everyone talks like they don't know that they're like on planet Earth, whenever anyone actually talks like a normal human being, it's kind of like terrifying. You know, it just cuts through the fog immediately and it just gives like a great impression, you know, especially when the characters start learning the truth of their situation and just like starting to piece things together, and just like the way all that develops near the end and just like the emotional payoffs. It's some insane, it's just very satisfying like narrative progression. However, I did mention 90% of it works, because I do think 10% of the voice acting in this game rings a little flat for me. And honestly, like the specific example I'm thinking of is like right at the end of the game. There's like the way James Sunderland, like Guy Seehee, delivers his lines just throws me out of the experience. Like it's very specific, and honestly when I tell you what I'm thinking about with that very specific example, it might ruin the moment for you. Anyways, this is one of the reasons I say fuck the hard mode in this game. Holy shit, this section is like a complete non-issue on normal. On hard, it's fucking terrible, because like on normal, you can kind of just treat it the way it is, you know, just a cinematic running away section. But on hard, you actually have to like slow down Pyramid Head at two very specific points. At the very beginning, you have to like position yourself to kind of like unload a clip on him and then run away and like, you know, not get stuck in a wall, get stuck with Maria blocking you. And then at that little like corner there, you have to like slow Pyramid down ahead so that he doesn't kill Maria, because like 3 stabs from Pyramid Head in that section end up killing Maria. And thing is, she ends up dying anyways. It's part of like the cinematic part. I mean, I thought the whole point of this scene was just, oh, you run away and it's a whole cinematic thing, and then she dies here and it's tragic. But no, you actually have to like stop her from dying beforehand so that she can die here. It's insanely frustrating on hard. You don't even have to think about this on normal. You can just run through and it's like a beautiful moment, you know, first time playthrough. But on hard, it is infuriating, dude. So yeah, no, that's like one of the reasons I don't fuck with the hard difficulty in this game. I mean, once again, hallways get packed with so many enemies. It's like a CTA Red Line train in Chicago. This section fucking sucks dick on hard. Bumping into walls gets a little bit annoying. I mean, I don't hate that too much, but then again, it does make normal like more... It makes it easier. And the majority of the boss fights do become more bullet spongy, but that doesn't really become an issue until like the final 2 boss fights. They're the ones that suffer the most from the increase in health, like, you know, with all the boss fights. All the other boss fights don't really have that much health in comparison to the final 2 boss fights. They take forever if you're fighting them by normal means. Just holy moly, dude. So yeah, that just grinds my gears intensely. But yeah, no, I do think that like the awkward voice acting works really well for Silent Hill 2. And I would also argue that like I think a good chunk of this is intentional, because like another great thing about Silent Hill 2 is that the actors are unknown people. Like you don't really know these voice actors. At the very least, I know that James Sunderland's actor, like Guy Seehee, I don't know how to say his last name, was just like a random guy they got from an audition. Like, I mean, a lot of these actors aren't like, you know, famous actors. You can't just point to someone and go, oh, that's Matthew Mercer doing a voice. No, these are complete unknowns, which just kind of like lets you get more engrossed in like the human story of it. Like the way they awkwardly deliver their lines a lot of the time just makes them more human, especially given the fact that they are such deluded people, like the characters and the leads of this game. Like they don't talk normally because they just aren't normal people psychologically. So it just works great for that. Yeah, like Guy Seehee, they picked him off of an audition, and then like, you know, the art director. Okay, I'm kind of making stuff up at this point. I heard it like once in a YouTube video that like someone on the team kind of modeled James like mannerisms specifically on the actor. So like this character design, a lot of guy like Seehee is inside this fantastic character design. I mean, the character designs of like the Silent Hill franchise is just fantastic. And Silent Hill 2, like the characters, the protagonists, they all have great designs. And also I love how they're all color coded too. I actually have notes for this section in particular as well, just exploring the town in the dark. And also, I'm going to tell you those directions right now, the notes. All right, so here's my notes for immediately after you exit the hospital. To be fair, I'm already like on step 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So yeah, step 1, right, left, right, right, left at wallish wall thing. Step 2, reach motorhome. So the motorhome is just going to be like this area you can enter, a motorhome per se, and it's going to have a save point, and then from there I'll have notes on how to progress beyond that, but I think we should reach the motorhome first. So yeah, this is where my notes start to get a little bit more specific. So yeah, like immediately exiting the hospital. This is also the time where you want to have tank controls, because every time I say left, I mean like hold down left and make James physically go left, even if it doesn't look like he's going left, like comparative to the camera, but like literally go left as James. So yeah, like immediately exiting the hospital, you go right. And then after going right for a little bit, at the first left, you go left. So yeah, that's what it means when I say step 1, right, left, right, right, left at wallish wall thing. And then there's step 2, reach the motorhome, because you'll be at the motorhome by this point. Though not the point in the video. It seems I still have a little bit of time going on. I'm still kind of like in my left, right, right, left, right period. So yeah, no, if you're paying attention and writing down on your notebook, I hope that was clear enough, because there we go. Yeah, I'm done with that. I really hope I have enough time to like babble about everything else I want to talk about. Like, for example, it took 3 days for Akira Yamaoka to compose the main theme of Silent Hill 2. Like, the theme of Laura, I think it's called in the soundtrack. It's a fucking masterpiece. It's like one of the best tracks in the entire franchise. It's incredibly iconic. It gets you pumped up to play the game. And just like on listening to it again, all the motifs also gets like dragged into like every single other part of this game. This section of the game was pretty scary, because I don't know if these hanger things can like actually damage you or not. I think it's kind of actually random whether they hit you or not. But yeah, just be very careful. Just always running. And then I reach this section of the door, and I get reminded with a cruel fact that even if you have the key to open the door, if you don't have your flashlight turned on, you can't open it. So you need to turn your flashlight on specifically to use the key I got to open this door. So, you know, it's very evil and fucked up that the game likes to do this. So, and like the flashlight, I mean, you could turn it off for like the advantages that gives you, but you also like need to turn it on specifically to enter doors, to use keys in certain doors, to look at the map. And mind you, I'm not going to be looking at the map at any point throughout this walkthrough, because I just have all the paths memorized. I kind of wanted to like memorize or just like know the paths ahead of time, just to like not waste time looking at the map. But during normal gameplay, you're going to be looking at that map a whole ton. And one of my favorite aspects about the map in the Silent Hill games is that every time you like enter a room or explore an area, the map will like automatically like mark itself with useful details, like, oh, this room is a certain puzzle, you know, come back here and solve the puzzle. Or, oh, you already like got every single ammo thing in this room, don't come back, you know. And also like in this specific section, I also got the details of, oh, here's the wrench, here's the item which you'll use the wrench to get for thing, right? Anyways, okay, I actually got to tell you my notes from the motorhome to the next part of the game. So yeah, no, here are my notes. I actually got to go all the way down here. Holy moly, here we go. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, my notes for motorhome to museum. Go, it's all going to be in one take. So I've already done step 1 or 2 or 3, I don't know. But yeah, step 1, right, then left to Happy Burger. I believe we're in Happy Burger right now. So we're about to do the next part. And also, like, the steps start having, like, multiple parts, but yeah, whatever. Step 1, right. Then left to Happy Burger. Right. After reaching the stairs with ammo, go across the street. After wrench, go left. Then left. Step 2, straight. Then right to the left street. Left at alleyway. Go straight, then leftish. Exiting the right place, go right. The right place is kind of like the place where you meet Maria. Like, exiting that area, pretty much like the whole puzzle with like the place where you meet Maria at nighttime. You go dig something up at a certain like angel statue. Once you dig it up, you basically just go back the way you came, and then you take a right and you just go down that street all the way down. And the funny thing is, you can actually go to like the Silent Hill like historical society place a lot sooner than is intended. And the game actually has like ways to like discourage you from doing this. For one, doing it is kind of insane. But if you do decide to go all the way to the Silent Hills Historical Society before going to see Eddie at the bowling place, I mean, that's like 20 minutes or 30 minutes ago. Oh my goodness. You'll see enemies like catapulted at you from the side of the road. It's one of the silliest looking animations like in the entire game. Might be the silliest shit in the whole game. But that's not what like dissuades you. So yeah. So say you do this insane thing of doing what I'm doing right now, but oh, actually no, I'm not there yet, but I'm gonna end up doing it eventually. But yeah, say you're trying to get to the Silent Hill like Historical Society like way earlier in the game than you need to, or like would have to. There's gonna be some notes all the way at the end of the road, like at the end of that road specifically, that'll tell you to go to the bowling place. I'm actually going to run into that clue right now. Not like during this section, but I'm not going to need it because, you know, that clue is only for people who like end up like doing that insane thing of like going way too early to that one area, just like exploring around. It's a fun little thing. Honestly, I kind of feel like the developers are kind of like, fuck, you know, what if the player goes here? Well, how do we dissuade them to, you know, go to the bowling alley if they missed all the clues of going to the bowling alley beforehand? Yeah, put a little note there. You know, it's just fun. That's a fun little thing that you can kind of run into if you fuck up on your way to your other objectives. But yeah, to get back to Akira Yamaoka taking 3 days to compose the main theme of Silent Hill 2, the Silent Hill 2 opening movie, like, you can only really access this if you, like, stay on the menu for too long. The game will kind of fade out, and then boom, there's the opening little, like, opening of the game. And honestly, it kind of shows you a lot of cutscenes, which maybe you shouldn't be seeing that early on, but you know what? It's like the music is edited so beautifully to it, but it is just cutscenes from the game, which can be a little bit weird. Honestly, it's kind of like the Yakuza-like openings, you know, where they just show you a bunch of cutscenes like way too early before you're supposed to see them. They're just kind of there, so on and so forth. We're going to kill this nurse right here to get like the extra ammo and the little healing items there, even though we're not going to use the healing items. But yeah, a fun thing about the opening movie for Silent Hill 2 is that in the beginning of the game, before you beat the game per se, a lot of the cutscenes are going to have like muted dialogue. But once you beat the game and then you like wait for that cutscene to show up again, all the dialogue actually comes back. It's a really fun detail. So if you didn't know that, now you know. I don't know, that was kind of cool. And also, like, Akira Yamaoka was also responsible for, like, all the sound effects in this game. I don't know if he had another guy helping him out with that, but he was doing a lot of, like, really grisly, fucked up. Like, the sound design in this game is phenomenal. And the making of documentary, like, stresses that the team really wanted to, like, Akira Yamaoka specifically, really wanted to create sounds that are, like, very unique. You know, like, not like anything else. They actually mentioned Resident Evil. They're kind of like, Resident Evil kind of has very common sound design, you know? We did not want to sound like that. So we recorded hundreds of footstep noises. They have over 100 footstep noises recorded for every single environment in this game. So, you know, I wanted to mention this like a lot sooner in my outline. It's like one of my first 5 points on my outline, but I've been exploring the points on this outline very non-linearly, and also like a lot of topics just keep popping into my head, which I didn't even think about to put on the outline because, man, this is such a dense game and I love it so much, and the conversation is so lively around the table when it comes to Silent Hill 2. Very timeless game. I want it in a museum, and I want it like free to access so that everyone can like study it, like the way people study fucking Citizen Kane or like 1984 as a book. Like, man, I love this game. And another note that I really wanted to mention is I want to talk about like Ito Masahiro. No, Ito Masahiro is the monster designer. Bless him. A lot of the designs in this game, I don't know if like this is true of the other games, but for this game in particular, I mean, in that documentary, he mentioned that he was inspired by the Irish painter Francis Bacon, and I'm not too familiar with him, but the images I saw from the documentary and like a lot of the art I saw from just a quick Google search, it's very like grisly stuff, very like distorted, monstrous like people and just like objects. I can very much see the influence from that in this game and the rest of the franchise. So yeah, no, really had to shout that out. And also, there's a lot of things about Sato Takayoshi's like motion capture, animation, and all that. Just like a lot of things he said that just were really interesting. For example, like he was kind of talking about like his design like methods. Okay, so you have a monster designer for this game, but Sato, he's kind of like a character designer per se. So like he designed the humans, but Ito, he designed the monsters. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, Sato has this really interesting like tidbit about how for the original game for Silent Hill 2, like for Maria specifically, like he was kind of focusing on how like a real woman isn't really perfect, right? Like if you try to take a photo of like a really attractive woman in real life, in reality, there's gonna come a point where she does a really weird fucking face and it's gonna look all like nasty. But that's human, right? And you grow to love that more than just a perfect person. Like a perfect person is just kind of a doll. And a doll ends up being very uncanny, and you can't really love the doll the same way you can love a human, right? I am also kind of paraphrasing like what he said in the documentary a lot, but also what he said in the documentary wasn't really as clear or concise. He was just kind of like babbling, but he was babbling some true shit. So I wanted to kind of like carry that on from the documentary and let you all know that that was something he was thinking about. And also there was like a direct line in the documentary that one of the imperfections that Maria has is that she kind of flaunts her tummy with a little bit of flab, which I don't know, dude. She's like a little too. I didn't even notice that. I wouldn't even think to notice that. Like just. Like, I don't know, I feel like I'm being, like, too picky to say, oh, she got a bit of flab on her. Like, she's pretty skinny in this game. But she does have a realistic design. She's just realistically very attractive in this game, per se. But, yeah, that was a line from the documentary specifically. Not my words, their words. All right? Capiche. Though I'm not done talking about sexiness because it is very important to this game's themes and story and developments, and it's also very important to Sato because anecdote from the documentary is also that like he would look in the mirror and try out different expressions to better capture how to animate them. So like he himself would try out the expressions he would like later hand animate on like the pre-rendered cutscenes on the different characters. And for like Maria, he says that he would like try to do sexy expressions in the mirror to kind of capture like her essence. So he also like just like calls himself like a pervert. He's like literally like closing his eyes. He's trying to like do like slutty eyes in the fucking mirror or something. I'm like quoting Succession right now. Like I want to quote TV shows, but like also I feel like quoting TV shows just spoils the fucking episode because like I'm just thinking about like that one moment where like Roman and Shiv, they're like two characters in the show, main characters, brother and sister. And like the brother is like, dude, why are you giving me like fucking slutty fuck me eyes right now? He's like, and the sister's like, what the fuck? What does that even look like? And they just kind of have a little like tangent there. And speaking of tangents, we're gonna be here for like 2 to 3 minutes, or maybe like a minute and a half, just going down this stairway. Another kind of like elongated sequence of not that much gameplay happening, but like the suspense and the tension and the sound design is just building and building and building, and it's phenomenal, and it looks beautiful, and it sounds beautiful, and it's grainy. And I fuck with this game heavy. Though the future games, it was less than a minute actually. Never mind. I guess it feels longer. It definitely feels longer. I'll tell you that much. I don't think I have any directions for this part specifically of the game because what you have to do is decently straightforward. I mean, like the game does pull some pretty nasty tricks on you. Like, you know, it's a little bit like mazy. You know, if you go the wrong way, then you have to like, kind of backtrack and go here. But for the most part, you just kind of go into a linear place, then you have to jump down a hole, and then like they'll play like a nasty little puzzle. This game starts pulling like its scariest tricks in this section. Like from this part all the way to like the boat is like some of the best scares in the whole game, and maybe this might be my favorite level in the game. Just like the Silent Hill Historical Society to the prison to the labyrinth, and like I don't know whether to like include those as like different sections or just include it all as one big section, because it feels like it's all one big section because like there's no interruption between those sections that, you know, take you to Silent Hill. It's all like one big thing. So yeah, no, it's like these environments, they get like a little bit more fucked up, a little bit more scary, a little bit more grainy. And like I think there's this puzzle specifically. No, the puzzle right here is like one of the most evil ones because okay, so you get this key. Once you get this key, the light turns off, and what you need to go is you got a battery in the hospital level, and you don't have to use that battery in the hospital level. You have to use that battery here. But if you use the battery immediately, you're gonna immediately take damage. What you have to do first is turn your light off. You have to like actually physically go into the menu and like just turn the battery off. Take the power switch, turn it off, because once you put the battery back into the flashlight, it won't automatically turn on, because like once you put that battery into the flashlight, a bajillion cockroaches is gonna spawn in. I have not talked much about the cockroach enemies, but I thought they were gonna be way more annoying because basically if they touch you, if you get close to them, you take damage, and they're incredibly fast. You can't really outrun them if they run at you a certain way. However, what I didn't realize is if you have your light turned off, they don't attack you. But if you have your light turned on, they do attack you. That's actually a big reason why I have my light turned off in the apartment. Most of it is to run past the vomiting enemies, and another part of it is precisely to not get hit by the cockroach enemies, because there are a couple cockroach enemies in the fucking apartment. And also, but the nasty thing about that puzzle is that you will have to turn your light on at some point in order to input like a key code, which is random. That's a random puzzle. It's not too hard to solve. There's only so many ways that little like puzzle can go. You know, like the ones with like the really like the keys that have been hit a lot, you have to hit one of them, right? And there's a certain pattern. There are 3 numbers. You have to decide which order is correct. Once you know the correct order, every time you reload your save, it'll be the same. But like in every new playthrough, it's always going to be a new code. So there's no way to like guess it ahead of time. Maybe there's like certain permutations that always happen, so you can kind of like guess it that way. But for the most part, not too hard of a puzzle, aside from the fact that it's a bit of a tricky bitch. And like there's like the cockroaches on the wall, they're just kind of there to be on the wall and be scary. But then there's cockroaches like in the bottom of the floor that can also get on the walls, that run very fast. Those can actually damage you. You can like kill a couple of them, but they'll just respawn. So it's all about timing and maybe like killing a couple of them here and there. I think like the pre-rendered cutscene, which happens like after this real-time cutscene, where like James is like, you can just do that, you can just kill someone. I love his facial animations there, and like the way his body language. It's really fun. I mean, just the body language of Eddie here too is like, pow. Even though Eddie does get some of the sillier lines in this game, they kind of play him up a bit, a little too goofy, like especially in his boss fight. But like, yeah, like this section right here, like James like, dude, you can just do that? Like, just like the way he looks so worried, it's so human. Like honestly, like these pre-renders, they do look a little bit dated. There is a little bit of a clayish texture to them, but I don't think they're really that uncanny. Honestly, I think they strike a really nice balance. They're kind of like in the middle. Like, you know, they're not like so like not human that you just reject them. They're not fully realistic, mind you, but they're just kind of in this nice little middle ground. I mean, a lot of the PS2 just is a nice middle ground because, you know, in the PS1 era, everyone was like a polygon creature, or they could be stylized in an anime fashion, which did help things. Like games like Mega Man Legends looks really great, but like for realistic human beings, they really hit their stride for the PS2 era. That's like where they got realistic enough where they weren't like uncanny weird creatures, like art abstract creatures. Like they were like realistic enough that they could look realistic. So yeah, I'm gonna drop a save here, and I do believe I have notes for how to beat this prison section. I don't know if I split that up into like 1 or 2 parts, but I think I'm gonna have to go through those notes right now, and I'll leave my discussions of sex and death later. Ooh, that's coming later. Yeah, be ready for that. So yeah, here we go. Notes for prison. Go! Step 1. Left and pass first gate to door on the right. Step 2. After getting square, then go down past gate into first floor. I'm gonna reread my things. I think I fucked up already, but I'm pretty sure this is like step 2. This is like the square I'm acquiring. You need to acquire like 3 special squares to activate a special puzzle to get a horseshoe, and it's pretty out there, pretty adventure gamey. But honestly, like the obtuseness of it just makes it scarier because it's like nothing makes sense. You're in a strange world. So anyways, let me reread all my steps and get your notepads out. Take care of the steps and you should be able to do the prison. Here we go. So yeah, go. Step 1. Left and pass first gate to first door on the right. Step 2. After getting square, then go down past gate into first door on the right. Step 3. After hallway, then pass 2 gates up first door on the left. Step 4. You can enter one of the cells. I wanted to make this a step because genuinely, like, just that's kind of unintuitive because, like, you wouldn't assume that you can, like, literally go to one of these doors and enter it. Like, you just assume it's just, like, set dressing. And also, given that most of them are locked, you wouldn't expect you can actually enter one of them. But no, you can enter one of them and boom, there we go. That is the step. So I really wanted to make that a step. So yeah. Step 5. Go back, then pass 1 gate, down door, on the right. Step 6. Go up, past gate, first door, on left. Step 7. Through hallway, then go up to second closest left door. Step 8. Down left room for lighter. Step 9. All the way left, then door on the right. Step 10. Get rifle and go through grate. Though considering what I do with a rifle in this walkthrough, it was actually fucking pointless to get it. There was actually no reason for me to get the rifle. It actually made my walkthrough longer. You'll see what I mean later on, but like, it does have a use if you don't cheese a certain like final boss fight. But I do, so I don't need the rifle. But the rifle's a pretty decent weapon, but it has similar issues to the shotgun, but not as severe because I think you can actually get out of the animation faster than you do with the shotgun. But yeah, no, that's my steps for the prison, and once you're done with that, we're going to enter a long elevator, and then there's going to be the labyrinth. And the labyrinth has its own notes, but I don't think I'm going to have enough time to actually talk about the things I want to talk about as quickly as possible. So anyways, I got to go all the way back in my outline because like my points are kind of scattered all over the place. But yeah, sex and death. Sex and death. Even though that's 2 words, I'm going to repeat it 3 times. Actually, that's 3 words. You know, the and counts as the word sex and death. Thinking about sex and death deeply. This theme is very much a main priority in the making of Silent Hill 2. And it is very much a theme in Lost Highway, and it is very much a theme in Crime and Punishment. Do you know how long I've been waiting to segue to talking about Lost Highway or Crime and Punishment? I thought I was going to talk about this in the first 20 or 30 minutes. No, I'm an hour and 12. Oh, this game is so fast-paced, which is honestly just really good. Like, you know, it's just the levels aren't like, don't take forever. There's not like any long tutorials, you know. It's an old-fashioned game, you know, like you just get into the shit very quickly. Because I mean, Silent Hill 2 is also a game where you don't get into the shit quickly compared to the other ones, but you still do relatively get into the shit pretty quickly compared to like most modern games. But holy shit. So like, before I did the commentary for Silent Hill 2, and also like before fully no damaging the game, I was actually reading Crime and Punishment, like this 200-year-old like Russian novel that's been translated to English by my book's all the way like on the other side of my room, but like Forshki, I don't know how to say his name. I also don't really know how to say the name of the protagonist, but yeah, no, the reason I wanted to read this book is I wanted to read this book in high school, but I never got around to it because I just didn't really read much. I still don't really read much. I'm actually trying to get more into like reading stuff, you know, being more literate, but I've heard for the longest time that Crime and Punishment has a lot of like thematic similarities to Silent Hill 2, or it should be more accurate that Silent Hill 2 takes a lot from Crime and Punishment, like themes of guilt and murder and repression and, well, society and all that. And I thought, you know, instead of reading a Wikipedia summary, I should actually read the damn book one of these days, and this was the perfect time. I mean, for commentary, I just wanted to talk about something interesting, and Crime and Punishment is for sure very interesting still, like 200 years later. And Lost Highway was one I was thinking about because, well, the Silent Hill like franchise takes a lot from David Lynch, and I don't know if it takes specifically from Lost Highway, but the main like narrative hooks of like Silent Hill 2, or just like the main narrative like developments of like Silent Hill 2 and Lost Highway have some similarities. The one thing about all three of these is that they're all about guilty murderers. I mean, mind you, if you never play Silent Hill 2, you might be like, what? Guilty murderers? James would never. No, he killed his wife. I'm sorry. It's a little bit too early to mention that, but if you're watching a no damage of the entire game, yeah, he killed his wife. That's the twist of this game. And the thing is, each book kind of treats murder differently, or rather, the main character murderer differently. I mean, Silent Hill 2 is probably... No. Crime and Punishment might be the most sympathetic to its main character. I mean, Silent Hill 2 is also pretty sympathetic to the character, but, like, you don't learn he's a murderer until, like, all the way at the end of the game. While in Crime and Punishment, the murdering is, like, the inciting incident, basically the climax of the first part of, like, 6 parts of that book. Lost Highway is probably the most, like, negatively positioned towards its protagonist. You learn about the murder very early on, but then the film gets really surreal and like subconscious-y, and like you don't really know what the fuck is happening for most of it. And then like, you know, the movie pretty much like pulls the rug under you and then like reveals what's really going on like near the end, and it's like a whole thing. But they're all about like people who, okay, 2 of them are about people who kill their wives. Silent Hill 2 is about killing wife. Lost Highway is about killing wife. Crime and Punishment is about killing an old lady, and that gets really funny like the more you get into the book. Anyways, we're finally in the labyrinth, and this actually involves very specific instructions, and we're already past like steps 1, 2, 3, 4. Holy shit, I already skipped so many steps, and the steps are really important. I have to get back to it. Oh my goodness. So yeah, notes for the labyrinth. Boom, bam, pow. Go! Step 1, left. Oh yeah, by the way, these steps, every step's going to be like a different room, so that I hope that makes things more clear. By the way, we're already like on step 3 or 4, so anyways, I'm going to go back from the beginning, get your notepads out, start noting some shit down. Here we go. Step 1, left, left, right, right. Step 2, area with greatsword. Second left is the exit, which leads us to step 3, right, left, left. Step 4, linear water place. I mean, I just had to like note that the step 4 is a room, but there's not much to it. Just kill these enemies. It's very linear. Boom, bam, pow. Step 5, random puzzle, then head back. Once again, not too confusing, but the backtracking is a little bit confusing. Step 6, linear water place. All right? Get ready for step 7, by the way, because this is where things get a little crazy. Step 7, left, then far left. Step 8, take the first right. Step 9, take the first right. Step 10, left, then first left choice. Step 11, left, right, left. Step 12, left, left, right. Step 13, linear, next area, left. Step 14, The rest of this area is pretty straightforward, even though it involves a puzzle that's not that straightforward, but I already know the solution, so it's straightforward to me. It's just like a boss fight, a thing here, another boss fight, so on and so forth, a save point. And yeah, that's pretty much the entire labyrinth. I'm gonna let this play out.
James, honey, did something happen to you? After we got separated in that long hallway? Are you confusing me with someone else? You were always so forgetful. Remember that time in the hotel?
Maria?
You said you took everything, but you forgot that videotape we made. I wonder if it's still there.
How do you know about that? Aren't you Maria?
I'm not your Mary.
So, you're Maria?
I am. If you want me to be.
All I want from you is an answer.
It doesn't matter who I am. I'm here for you, James. See? I'm real. Don't you want to touch?
I want to stress something from the making of documentary again. I mean, I'll be doing it a couple times, and I did not talk at all about that puzzle, but it's pretty straightforward. It's a little random, but like once you know the solution, you just go and do the solution. Yeah, I just ran back up here because you need to get this wire cutter. Honestly, like the way you have to position yourself to get the wire cutter is like too close to the stairs, which makes it kind of easy for me to mess up and just, you know, go to the stairs. And also, sometimes, even if you kill every single enemy in that area, randomly, an enemy will spawn in, and they'll be like underwater, and they'll like crawl really fast, and it'll just ruin your run. So, I hope you remember the steps I mentioned in my previous, you know, like little section there. This is actually the second day of recording this commentary because, well, the first day I started like way too late, and I didn't want to wake up the folks while doing my stuff here. But yeah, no, something which the developers stressed in the making of documentary is just Maria's performance, Maria or Mary's performance in that like scene specifically, the one before, because she kind of switches between like this kind of icy cold like death demeanor and then like a more sensual demeanor. And they didn't say this, but like I'm just gonna add this, that like there's also like a third thing, you know, like a more homely, like nice aspect to like her behavior. Like she kind of acts like the Mary from before, like his wife, compared to Maria, who's a little bit more like outwardly like affection, like outwardly like sensual towards him. Maria, not so much. It's like a weird mix, and it just creates for a really like uncanny scene. And the voice performance is like really important in that one part there. So if you are going to do it again, you'll probably have to capture that again. But that's another issue which happened with the HD collection, where they did new voices for the original Silent Hill 2 and 3. So like, you know, go back like maybe a couple minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes. I actually forget exactly when I mentioned that. But do you remember how cool it was that in the original Silent Hill 2, you couldn't just point to like one of the actors and go, hey, I know that, you know, I know that guy. You can't just say James' voice is like, oh, I know that actor, that's famous guy. Well, with the new voices, what's up, Troy Baker? Yeah, I see you, you handsome devil. Get out of here. Get out of here now. Get out of Silent Hill. Get out. So yeah, no. A good majority of like the new voices for Silent Hill 2 HD collection, the main guy's Troy Baker. Maria got voiced by Mary Elizabeth. I don't know her middle or last name, and I don't really like her new performance. Like, once again, in that scene specifically, she's like a little bit too flat. She kind of has like one tone. You know, it's like a different interpretation of the scene, which I just don't really like as much. However, I don't want to talk too much shit about Maria Elizabeth. I don't know her middle or last name, because I'm pretty sure she sung some songs for Silent Hill 3 and 4, and they may be some of my favorite songs in the franchise, so she's pretty goated for that, if I'm remembering things correctly. Like, she did The Room of Angel, right? That's a very, like, grisly... I don't know if grisly is the right word for that song, but it's like, damn, bro. Like, the subject matter gets pretty intense. So, yeah, no. That was a sadness and a misdirection. Just like a misconcepted... No, there's a misunderstood... There's a better word for this. Like, just a bad idea. They should have not done new voices for Silent Hills 2 and 3. I think especially for 3, because one of the biggest offenses about the HD collection is, okay, originally they were only gonna let you play with the new. Oh, by the way, this boss fight kind of sucks. I'm not gonna lie to you. You kind of have to like go into a corner, fire a couple shotgun blasts, then like immediately run the fuck out of there and just kind of keep doing this. And you kind of have to hope for the best here, because like sometimes, you know, you'll still be stuck in the shotgun firing animation. Like the thing will just grab you and do like its overly long animation of like bringing you under the bed. I fucking hate it. This room looks fantastic in the sense that it's so fucking disturbing. Like, holy shit, we start to get a better idea of like what Angela's trauma is with like sexual abuse and her father. Like, holy shit, this is terrible, dude. And like those fucking pulsating things in the wall, like the texture of this, one of the most disturbing rooms in the game by far. Holy shit, dude. Boss fight, not too great, honestly, pretty much a damage sponge, but it's kind of an annoying damage sponge because you really do need to use the shotgun, and then boom, she starts kicking the shit out of it. And the abstract daddy, that's what it's called. Because it is like an abstracted version of like her father, her abusive father, who like basically like sexually molested her. That's like the implications here. They're not like too direct about anything. It's all implications and like, you know, that's totally what happened here, but like, holy shit, it's disturbing, man. So yeah, from here on out, not too much happens in the labyrinth besides just this one puzzle. I'm pretty sure on hard, you have to figure out which prisoner was like doing counterfeiting, because the counterfeiter is the one who is innocent, and you pull that noose, and the placement could be kind of random. So, you know, check that. Here's our clue here. So, you know, I'm kind of like flipping through it pretty fast, you know, just slow the video down to read it then. And here some of the suicidal like symbolism starts to come into play. Not the first time it comes into play, but like this is he's pulling the noose down, you know. It's kind of giving you an idea of like what his mental process is going through. You know, it's very clever. It's very cool. Environmental storytelling. I fuck with it. But anyways, back to the offense of the HD collection for the Xbox 360 and PS3. Originally, they were only going to have the new voices for those two games, and you couldn't play with the old voices. But I'm pretty sure that James's main actor, Guy Seehee, complained about it. He was like, where's my royalties at? I want to be in this game. And then like the fans, you know, when the first trailer for the HD collection came out, were like, what the fuck? I don't want to play with new voices. I want the old voices. So I guess like begrudgingly, Konami added them back in. But they did not do that for Silent Hill 3. And you know what drives me nuts about that? I think Silent Hill 3 out of the first 4 games has the best acting by far. Like, I don't even think it's awkward. I think like most of the characters there give like genuinely great performances. Like whoever Heather's actress is in Silent Hill 3 is phenomenal. And then you fucking play like the HD collection of Silent Hill 3 and suddenly, yeah, I see you, Yuri Lowenthal, you motherfucker! Ah, Spider-Man! Ah, so like he doesn't even do a bad performance in like the HD collection, but he just does like, you just fucking know that's Yuri Lowenthal. Like you can't separate it. He's kind of doing like a Sasuke voice. Like you just, I mean, not like an edgy one, but just like a normal one. It's like, I know that's you, bro. And especially for like the character that he's playing, because the original actor gives this very like unhinged, like uncanny performance, and then Yuri Lowenthal just kind of plays him straight, and it's just like, And the new actress for Heather just doesn't really sound like a teenage girl in the same way that the original one did. It's just like a downgrade in all levels, and like that's the one which you don't have original voices for. What are we doing here, dude? It's insanity. Like, it actually drives me nuts. It drives me loco. So yeah, everyone already knows, don't play the HD collection. You know, play the original PS2 versions. You know, modify the PC versions. Don't touch the Xbox 360 or PS3 versions. The fucked up graphics, voice direction, like ideas are kind of bad. They changed the font in certain areas to Comic Sans. It was a mess. And it's a lot more complicated than I'm letting on, because I forgot a lot of the details. It was a whole thing. I would recommend not only... Okay, so there's this one YouTuber called Twin Perfect, which kind of did like a whole video on it. I mean, you'll get some information there, but I also think that they're kind of biased on certain things, which means you might get a little bit of tunnel vision only watching their videos. So I recommend watching multiple videos on the subject and getting like multiple angles, because like so much shit got fucked up in the process of that. Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, oh my goodness. So yeah, that's that. So okay, we've reached the end of like the second part of the labyrinth. We're gonna reach like a save point here, and then it's gonna be a boss fight, and then it's gonna be the path to the final level of the game. I mean, this game just breezes by so quickly. Holy moly. But yeah, no, I want to get back to Crime and Punishment, because I was mentioning before a lot of like the suicidal like symbolism of Silent Hill 2, and I think some of it is kind of taken from Crime and Punishment. At the very least, maybe something else took something from Crime and Punishment, and that something else maybe got copied over by Silent Hill 2. But like, you know, just media is always copying itself. I mean, I know some people don't like the word media, so like just works of art are always like copying themselves, right? You know, there's rarely anything completely original in the world. I mean, look at a Tarantino movie. You could like get most of those shots and like just, you know, like I guess there was a word for this. You could just say, oh, that's from another movie from like the 50s or 40s, because it totally was, because he's like super inspired by that stuff. And honestly, it's probably the same for a lot of other movies, and it's the same with paintings and music and books, so on and so forth. Anyways, yes, this fight has been memed to death, especially with the remake coming out. A lot of the remake defenders have just kind of shown you footage of this and been like, yeah, Silent Hill 2, not as good as you remember. But I gotta give props to them in the sense that this is probably the worst boss fight in the game. Because, well, for one, he's very easy to cheese, and two, him being the only human you fight just kind of makes things awkward, because every single other boss fight in the game, they are kind of like simple and bullet spongy, but they're not really terrible. And also just in terms of like seeing you fight the other boss fights, like fighting them looks natural. Because, you know, they're kind of like these weird fucked up monsters. So that when you shoot them, you know, they won't really react like in a human fashion. They'll react like weird fucked up monsters, right? So it looks normal. But here you're just fighting a normal human being who just looks like he doesn't have like AI pathfinding or just like good AI pathfinding. It looks really fucking weird. If Eddie was like some weird morphed monster, you know, this contextually or just like visually would work better. But because he's just a normal human who just takes like 7 stabs with a chainsaw, like, you know, no problem. You know, it looks a little fucking stupid. And also, like in the first phase, the room is so small that he just constantly charges you, so he's very easy to cheese if you have the long pipe. And then in the second phase, the whole gimmick is that he's kind of hiding behind these meat curtains, and it just doesn't really work out that well. And yeah, my strategy was to use New Game Plus weapon, the chainsaw, because like just doing this on New Game with the other weapons is kind of a pain in the ass. Carcinogen had this strategy with the Great Blade. Yes, he did. He had a strategy with the Great Blade. No, the Great Knife, actually, which looked really easy, but then I tried it myself and I kept fucking it up like over and over and over. So I was like, fuck, I'm going to try out the chainsaw. And the chainsaw is a much more consistent strat, but it's also kind of a New Game Plus strat, so you know. I mean, if you're not on New Game Plus, oopsie daisy. New Game Plus in this game is a little weird because it's not like you carry your strats or like your ammo or your level from the previous walkthrough. You just get like extra goodies while basically just being a new game still. You know, you still start from the same place with the same ammo, with the same amount of stuff, but in the environment there'll be like 1 or 2 things that are like new. In fact, this game has multiple endings, and you have to like get 3 or 4 of the endings to unlock a secret 5th ending, and the only way you can get that secret 5th ending is by getting a certain item that only appears in a certain area after you get the previous 4 endings and doing a New Game Plus file after getting those first 4 endings. It's very fun. It's very like silly. That's the dog ending. I'm thinking about the dog ending. Not sure how the UFO ending works. But also, I think Silent Hill 2 probably has like my favorite like ending system out of all the games, in the sense that like the system that chooses how you get the endings. Because in Silent Hill 1, it basically just amounts to you have to do this one like thing at this one specific part, and if you don't do that, you don't get the good ending. And like on my first playthrough, I got the bad ending for Silent Hill 1 because it was like, what the fuck? How was I supposed to know I had to get this one thing from the hospital and use it in this one boss fight? Are you kidding me right now? And to get like the goodest ending in Silent Hill 1, you have to go to like a random area, like 75% of the way through the game, like solve a little like combination puzzle, and then get a certain material there. So a little obscure. Silent Hill 3, I think, was more of a, it was kind of weird. Like there were certain like multiple choice questions you got asked throughout the game, and if you answer it a certain way, it influenced what ending you got, and there was like another secret thing which influenced it. Silent Hill 4 probably has like one of the most egregious like ending decisions because it like revolves entirely around an escort mission and like just keeping her as healthy as possible. So I hope you can understand how infuriating that got. Like the second half of Silent Hill 4 is very annoying. Silent Hill 2, however, it doesn't tell you how you get these endings, but basically the way it's influenced. Okay, so for the first 3 endings, you have the drowned ending, the Maria ending, and then the leave ending, right? I mean, spoilers for Silent Hill 2. I mean, I kind of already spoiled the main thing about the game, but I'm going to spoil more things about the game. So For the Maria ending, the way you get that is by pretty much like staying close to Maria, spending more time with her, making sure she doesn't get hurt, so on and so forth. That's how you get the Maria ending from what I understand. How you get the drowned ending, like the one where you pretty much like kill yourself, that you pretty much have to like look at Angela's knife. Whenever you're low on health, you have to just stay low on health. So you can accidentally get this ending just by refusing to use healing items or trying to like power through. And the leave ending you get by, I guess, examining Mary's letter and by trying to stay alive as much as possible. So if you keep yourself in good health for the entire walkthrough and just look at Mary's letter or whatever and don't look at Angela's knife, like in your inventory, then you will get the leave ending. So you won't know this at all in your first playthrough. And, since you don't know this at all in your first playthrough, you'll like organically get the ending which, best suits your decisions or like your interests, like if you start like investigating some of the more depressive things about the game, you'll get the most depressing ending in the game. If you start hanging around Maria like, too much, the game will give you the Maria ending. But if you start investigating like the more positive things in the game and try to like keep your health in the green as much as possible, then yeah, it's just like a multiple choice ending which hides itself from you, and I think it's really clever and cool, and I really love it. It's a really great decision. Anyways, we've reached the part where I actually have to like talk about my steps for the final level. I actually have like 46 steps. It's gonna be really funny to go through all these steps right now and then just like wait for the rest of my video to pretty much catch up to all the steps I'm gonna mention. So I'm gonna tell you the entire like walkthrough guide on how to get through this section up until like the final 2 boss fights. So this time you really need to get your notepads out, all right? You ready? You sure? Actually, before I start talking about that, it is 40 steps. It's going to be a lot. I want to get back to my point about crime and punishment. So, yeah, no. I believe either in chapter 6. Wait, I'm getting there. So, wait. Yeah, the beginning of part 6 in crime and punishment, like the book is split up into 6 parts, and each part has its own chapters. That's pretty much how I'm like understanding it. But yeah, in the beginning of part 6 of crime and punishment, there's this quote which says, "It was as if fog suddenly fell around him and confined him in a hopeless and heavy solitude." Because I'm pretty sure like the plot twist of part 5, someone reveals to him that, they know that he killed the old lady, and like, the guilt is starting to like compound on him. And just like this feeling of solitude and the great big fog, I can definitely see how this can be like applied to Silent Hill. Silent Hill plays around with these like feelings of isolation and like, misunderstanding very much so here. And by the way, the reason I'm kind of fucking around here is because I think I genuinely forgot what I was supposed to do in this section at this point and where to go. I was like looking at my notes. I was like, oh, fuck. Anyway, speaking of my notes, let's get back to my notes. So yes, let's start with my notes here. Notes for the final level of the game. Go! Step 1. Get music box before entering. Step 2. Straight. Left. Last door on left. Step 3. Right. Downstairs.
Yeah.
Step 4. Go right for thinner, then upstairs. Step 5. Go left. Last door on right. Step 6. Fish, then left first right door. Step 7. Reception, then save. Step 8. Go upstairs to the right. Oh yeah, by the way, I should probably mention that you're going to be running into these fucked up abstract daddies. And there's actually a strategy to like avoid getting grabbed by them, and it's by hugging the walls. If you stay really close to the walls, for some reason the daddies can't grab you, and that's how you deal with them. I believe I'm on step 8 right now, or I'm going to save the game. So yeah, let me just start back up at step 9. I'm gonna like grab a thing before saving. But anyways, step 8. I hope you noted down the previous steps because I'm gonna just start from step 8, okay? Let's go. Step 8. Go upstairs to the right. Step 9. Left. First door on left. Step 10. Use fish key. Step 11. Leave to the left. Step 12. Second to last door on right. Step 13. Use thinner. Step 14. Go left and exit. Step 15. Go straight. Step 16. Go straight. Step 17. First floor, right, left, last left door. Step 18. Get music box. Step 19. Right, right, first left door. Step 20. Get videotape. Step 21. Blue door. Step 22. Straight, then left. Step 23. Basement item. Step 24. Left, last door. Step 25. Leave bar. Step 26. Straight, left, upstairs. Here is that strategy at work. I'm hugging the wall so those fucking things can't like rape me or whatever like they fucking do. Man, I hate those things. Like the animation is terrible. It's like, I mean, it's like gruesome, but also like not that elaborate. It's very fucking infuriating. It just makes me hate those enemies so much. And technically, you don't actually have to use the thinner if you know every single combination of words. You can kind of like brute force it, but I did not know that. I'm just kind of doing it like a normal walkthrough. You know, like, hey, you have to get the thinner, and the thinner will tell you the word, but the word can be random. It could be down, it could be kill, it could be something else. So you could brute force it if you know every single word, but, you know, you could just get the thinner and just do it that way. Just letting you know your options. Anyways, I think I forgot what step I was on, so I'm going to like restart from step 21. I hope you all have been noting that down on your notepads. Hugging the walls again, very, very nice. That thing is just confused as fuck. It doesn't know what to do. This is just stressful because like the second you stop hugging that wall, like for too long, it gets you. So anyways, step 21, blue door. Step 22, straight, then left. Step 23, basement item. Step 24, left, last door. Step 25, leave bar. Step 26, straight, left, upstairs. Step 27, first door on left. Step 28, save. Step 29, upstairs, left. Step 30, get my stuff. And it's funny because at this current time, I'm actually getting rid of all my stuff. There's like a very nasty gimmick the game pulls for like its final level where a big section of it is just going to be no weapons, no ammo, no bullshit. Get rid of all of it. Get out, get out. Though I'm pretty sure you don't have to get rid of Mary's letter. You can keep that on your person and it'll still count. But everything else needs to get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Alright? But the step I'm talking about is like after you're done with basically everything. I'm like, here I'm kind of like, fuck, did I need my flashlight to save the game? That would be kind of a nuisance. But no, that is not the case. I just didn't really have the right input there. So that's why I was struggling to save the game. But anyways, step 30, get my stuff. Step 31, Cinderella on left, mermaid in center, Snow White on the right. That rhymed. Fuck! So that's going to be important for later. Step 32. Upstairs, right. Step 33. Right, upstairs. Step 34. In front. Step 35. Time for the truth. Step 36. Left downstairs. Note the lack of comma here. What that means is just go downstairs and the stairs will be to the left, sort of thing, right? Step 37, right. Step 38, last door on right. Step 39, all the way down right. Step 40, elevator to basement. Step 41, all the way left. So yeah, since you don't have weapons and there's these kind of little leg things, you have to pretty much like bait out their attacks. And this section's gonna get a little bit nasty if you're trying to exit the basement specifically. So like, I mean, trying to exit this room here because the camera is basically going to be blocking your line of sight in this hallway, and the thing could be positioned in a really like, you know, inconvenient way where it just gets you. So you have to be really careful like exiting that place and like trying to go here to the kitchen. Yep. So anyways, so yeah, I hope you're noting down all the previous like 41 steps. It should help you you know, memorize what to do in this section. But anyways, step 42, Yummer's Bar and Kitsch. Step 46, no 43 actually, don't get confused. Straight, left, right door. Step 44, Angela, sad face. Step 45, pray the hangers don't clip you. Step 46, save point to prep for the final boss fights. That is the entire final level, and like the final two boss fights are pretty straightforward. I mean, no, the fights themselves are annoying as fuck and can be pretty difficult to get through if you don't have enough healing items or ammo, but Like, the exploration is pretty straightforward and you shouldn't be too complicated. Pretty sure I'm about to, like, you know, run up on step 30 here in my gameplay. But yeah, that's every single step you need for the final level of the game. And I hope that's, like, self-explanatory enough and you can follow through with it. And honestly, there's, like, certain sections of this I could kind of, like, take out, because what ended up happening is that I never ended up using my rifle. I mean, actually, I'll shoot my rifle, you know, in my footage. So yeah, for this part here, just kind of bait out those attacks, enter this room, get your shit. Yes! And then you have to, like, go back, and once you go back, the enemies are going to be despawned, just kind of the game fucking with you, you know, psychological quandaries and all that. But yeah, no. So yeah, there was, like, this symbolism of fog just kind of, like, oppressing the main character, especially, like, in Crime and Punishment, especially when, like, you know, people start finding out what he did, and, you know, the way that starts building up, and just, like, the morality of Crime and Punishment is, like, very mixed. Because, okay, I mentioned that it was really funny that, like, he killed the old lady. And the reason I say that is because the book kind of builds it up like he's gonna kill, like, his sister's fiance, because he's like, man, I don't fuck with this guy at all. Like, he gets, like, a letter from, like, his mother and his sister that, like, they're gonna marry this dude because he's kind of rich, and he's like, oh, he's a nice guy, you'll like him. Except there's something in the letter which kind of throws him off, where, like, the mother's like, you know, there's this one thing this guy said. They're Russian, by the way. They don't talk like this. So they mention that the guy likes when a woman is poor so that he can kind of help her out because he's so rich. And the main character is like, this fucking scoundrel, I am going to stop this marriage from happening. I'm kind of like, oh, he's going to say by any means necessary. I'm like, oh, fuck, is he going to kill the husband? He's like, no, I'm going to kill this one random old lady that beats her sister. It's like, fuck, yeah, she's kind of a bitch. Maybe she should die, but I feel like you'd be better off killing this fiance. But maybe you're crazy. You know, maybe the fiance is not a bad guy. But as the book goes along, and we start meeting this fiance, and he, like, starts presenting himself to be, like, before the sister and the mother and the main character physically. As it turns out, no, this guy is a fucking cunt monster. He's a fucking asshole. He's, like, the bane of everyone's existence, and no one fucks with him. Like, the worst, like, impressions you could get about this fiance were all correct. He actually is a piece of shit. Like, Raskolnikov, I said his name wrong. The main character would have been totally fine just fucking killing that motherfucker. I mean, he would have gone to jail, and he's like a high-ranking official, and he's like a lawyer or whatever, like the fiance, but still, he's a complete cunt. So it's kind of, and then there's like another character that gets introduced, which, you know, the main lead would have just been better off killing him instead of the old lady. But one of the biggest aspects of Crime and Punishment is the ambiguity of why he killed the old lady. So, you know, just read it and just come to your own, like, conclusions. Look at this. And here is the reveal, him as a killer. And, like, something which I really want to stress is that while I have praised the pre-rendered cutscenes in this game quite a bit, but even the in-game cutscenes have a lot to praise. I really love the framing of them. And it's, like, the character models are still, like, pretty expressive. Yeah, not as expressive as, like, the hand-animated, like, 3D models with their eyeballs, but, like, these are just really great models. Like, I mean, once again, really great character designs. But yeah, they just do a ton with framing, and, like, the in-game cutscenes are a little bit awkward in terms of, like, timing, because everyone's kind of slow. But once again, that kind of, like, makes it seem like they're all kind of foggy and lost. I think it works really well for the game. But yeah, these are still, like, really impressive. Just, like, really nice framing, and just look at that, a little close-up there where James, like, just coming to confront Laura to tell her that Mary's gone. Like, holy shit, what a moment. As for Laura's voice actress in this game, not the biggest fan of her, but the one thing she does have going for her is I'm pretty sure that is, like, an actual child. In the new voices, they just got, like, an older woman to, like, pretend to be a child, and, like, you can just feel it. You can just, like, hear the difference. This child actress isn't that great, but at least it is like a child. It is like an actual child. It's like a child voice, so it does add something to it, but not one of the highlights of like the English voice acting in this game. I was about to say dub. I mean, I think this game was originally released in English. Like the original language was in Japanese, though it is a Japanese like studio and team that worked on it and they pretty much went through all that. But I'm pretty sure it was made with like English voice acting in mind. And yeah, no, I mentioned before that Silent Hill 2, Crime and Punishment, and Lost Highway all kind of revolve around like themes of sex and death. And to be fair, sex and death as a theme is kind of like fucking college thesis, like freshman, like college freshman thesis, like 101. I mean, I feel like it's a topic that's been done to death, but let me just elaborate on it a little bit, because I think it is kind of like a bit of a connective theme throughout like the 3 pieces of work. With Silent Hill 2, I mean, all the enemies have like this weird, like submissive, like feminine vibe to them. Like the patient demons are all like, kind of like wrapped up, and they have like these weird leg things. The leg monsters are like, you know, a pair of disembodied legs. And Pyramid Head is like one of the only like kind of like masculine facing enemies. Like the way it fucking like manhandles like the other enemies, it's very disturbing whenever he shows up. And like one of the coolest things about Pyramid Head is like, whenever he does show up, he doesn't do like a big song and dance about it. He just pops up. Like the first time you meet him, like in the apartments, he's just in the hallway. When you enter that one door to like the cutscene, he's just there, just boom. It's like an instant cut. He's doing some fucked up shit. Like there's no build up to it. It just happens, and it's like, oh fuck, there he is. And whenever something does happen, it's over very quickly. And then in the hospital, boom, he just shows up, knocks you down, forces you to take damage. And then, like, whenever he chases you, like, at the end of the hospital, boom, he just shows up. And when he chases you, like, later on in the labyrinth, boom, he just shows up. And, like, here, it's gonna come out of nowhere, too, again. But this time, it'll be, like, the final time, and we'll get, like, the big reveal and hint to, like, what the Pyramid Head really represents. And, yeah, I let this entire cutscene play out, because if you skip this cutscene, this little radio message of Mary's, or Maria's, just does not show up. And here, we're kind of in the haunted section of the hotel. And one thing which I do like in the first game better, just from memory, is that the haunted sections are basically the entire final level. While here, it's only really like a short tidbit you kind of go through. I mean, it is cool. The environment looks fantastic, but it's not very like demanding gameplay wise. You just kind of go through a couple rooms and then boom, you're at the final bosses. Well, in Silent Hill 1, I have a very memorable experience about my first playthrough of Silent Hill 1, where I actually forgot the map to the hospital on my first hospital visit. So when you reach the final level in that game, I had no map for it, and like the way that game fucks with you in terms of like teleportation and exploration gets so fucking Looney Tunes. It's insane. But now that we're here, actually, before I start talking about sex and death with like Lost Highway and Crime and Punishment and all that, I actually want to mention Chapter 6 of Part 6 in Crime and Punishment. There's this section where like the streets are starting to flood suddenly, and there's just constant thoughts of suicide thrown throughout these sections, and it just reminds me a lot of this section. I mean, we reach like the haunted section, you know, James is like confronting the truth, and I think thoughts of suicide are just kind of running through his head. I mean, there's the drowned ending, which could happen if you like, you know, play the game a certain way, and like this is just building up to it. There's very similar symbolism in Crime and Punishment, like throughout like the main character's like thoughts. You know, he's thinking, do I go to jail? Do I kill myself? Do I try to run away? Just like there's always like the guilt is kind of building up here and there, and like here the guilt is also building up. And also the symbolism of water here also plays off very nicely with the symbolism with Angela, which will show up later. She is coming up very soon. Well, not too soon, but showing up decently soon. So yeah, no, that's like one connective tissue, like just a connecting motif between two books. Though, like in both like books, they do happen near the end. When it comes to Lost Highway, I don't think it plays around too much with water. It's mostly just like dark roads, you know, the subconscious lightning, fire, like blue rooms, blue lighting. All that is very prevalent in Lost Highway and also in a good majority of David Lynch's stuff. Water, not so much. Honestly, I couldn't tell you much about water in David Lynch. But one thing I can tell you is, holy shit, I hate these fucking swimming enemies. They're the worst. I fucking hate them. They move too fast. They unnerve me. I don't know like what the strategy with them is. I just shoot the fuck out of them. I waste as much ammo as possible to make sure that things fucking die. But I run into like so many situations where like I shoot them down to go to the ground and I can't kick them. Like, I don't know, it's just, it drives me nuts. It drives me loco because, again, I have to kick them to kill them. That's actually an annoying thing about Silent Hill 2. And I'm pretty sure it's true for Silent Hill, like, 1, 2, 3, not sure about 4, where basically, the way you kill enemies, you have to kick them. You can't just like keep shooting them. Once they go down to the ground, kick them and then they go down. So you kind of have to position yourself in such a way where you can basically like rush at the enemies when they go down, because if you're too far away and you try rushing them, especially in Silent Hill 2, I don't know if this happens in Silent Hill 1, but when the enemy starts trying to crawl back to like standing up, they'll actually damage you in the process if you're too close or too late. Anyways, I'm going to let this cutscene play out in full. It's one of the most important cutscenes in the game.
Mama! Mama, I was looking for you. Now you're the only one left. Maybe then I can rest. Mama, why are you running away? You're not my mama. It's you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Angela, no.
Thank you for saving me. But I wish you hadn't. Even Mama said it. I deserved what happened.
No, Angela, that's wrong.
No, don't pity me. I'm not worth it. Or maybe you think you can save me. Will you love me? Take care of me? Heal all my pain? That's what I thought. James, give me back that knife.
No, I won't.
Saving it for yourself?
Me? No, I'd never kill myself. It's hot as hell in here.
You see it too. For me, it's always like this.
If you haven't caught on now, I should probably like over elaborate that basically every character in this game is experiencing their own version of Silent Hill. The town is kind of like manifesting like their psychological like trauma as like these subliminal monsters or like symbolic monsters of some sort, and like every character has their own different versions of them. James has these like very feminized, like sexualized monsters, and also very like masculine, like just aggressive monsters that kind of contrasted all the same, and kind of like these figures of punishment. Angela has the abstract daddies, like these reminders of like the abusive father she has, basically the abusive mother as well, but it's mostly on the father, but like the mother also didn't treat her well, or rather didn't help her out in that situation that they were in. So it's implied that she was basically on a quest to kill both of them. Anyways, this boss fight, holy fuck, this boss fight, dude. Holy shit. So I have a strategy with the Great Knife, which kind of makes things a lot easier. Carcinogen did not do this easy strategy, but to be fair, this easy strategy still isn't that easy. Like, it honestly is kind of random whether this works or not, but you have to like position yourself in the corner and just keep hitting this thing. And the Great Knife has similar properties to the pistol where they just slow down, and they'll slow down enough where they won't land an attack on you. But I've just had this thing, I've repeated this boss fight like 20 or 40 times in a row, even trying to do this Great Knife strategy where the second guy will just not show up, or like show up at a very inconvenient time and just stab me, while I'm dealing with the first guy here. Sometimes I'll like misdo the timing of the great knife, and it's just a whole hassle. Once you get it down, it works. Also, I think like the tank controls will make this thing easier. And there's also like moments where I fucked up this fight because like James will like auto lock onto the wrong target and like the knife won't bounce off the wall. You really want to be in this corner here because you're taking advantage of the fact that the knife's going to bounce off the wall while still doing like a big motion which strikes all the enemies at once. It's a pain in the ass, it's random, and I hate it, but doing the fight normally, Carcinogen no damages this fight normally by spamming a bunch of rifle rounds. It takes like 50 to 60 rifle rounds to defeat the boss fight. It's a fuck ton of like, you know, ammo and damage you have to deal to these guys, and it takes forever. And he does this like this weird strafing strat, which pretty much like, you just get stuck in the corner here, you get stuck in the corner there. I'll watch this video, I tried it out for myself, but you have to basically be doing that corner strat, that strafing strat for around 4 to 5 minutes. So that's what I mean by the hard mode is kind of bullshit. It is not that, like, this fight is not that bullshit in the normal difficulty of the game. I mean, they still take a lot of damage, but holy shit, it's not like 50 to 60 rifle rounds of damage, you know? However, since I used the great knife instead of the rifle, we're now in a situation where I actually never use the rifle throughout the entirety of the game. So anyways, what I'm going to do now, from here to like the final boss fight, is basically just do strategies that don't really have much going on in them, so I can just kind of yap about other things. But what I'm doing right now is actually emptying out every single piece of ammo I have, which means I didn't really need to acquire as much rifle or shotgun ammo as I needed. Like, when I was going from like the motorhome all the way to the museum, I could have just skipped all that shit and just went straight to the museum. But no, I stopped by, I picked up pieces of ammo, I picked up pieces of shotgun ammo, which I didn't need because I'm going to get rid of all of them right now. Also, here's a useful strategy if you didn't know about it before. You don't need to like press the button like once. You don't need to like tap the button to do new shots. You can actually like hold the button down to fire your weapon. I mean, the way you like fire your weapon is by holding down like R2 and then pressing X. You don't have to press X for every single piece of ammo. You can just like keep it held down and like James will automatically like go through firing another shot immediately as possible and like reloading and all that. And to be fair, when it comes to reloading in normal gameplay, I do tend to... Oh, I kind of felt like a hiccup coming up, but no hiccup. A lot of saliva building up too. Ew, I hope that's not like audible on the microphone. Like, yeah, I typically tend to just go into the menu to reload because it's faster. Because if you go through the physical reloading animation, you're kind of stuck there for 2 to 3 seconds, and like the boss fight or enemy can get you. But the reason why I'm getting rid of every single piece of ammo in my inventory is because this game, like the final boss fight, for some reason, if you have like no ammo, you can just like keep running around and avoiding attacks, and like after 4 to 5 minutes, the boss fight will just give up if you don't have ammo. I think it's like I think some people I've talked to have called it like a soft lock, like, you know, mechanism, where it's like avoiding a soft lock. So, you know, if you don't have any ammo, the game's like, oh fuck, you don't have a way to defeat the final boss fight. We're just gonna let the game like defeat itself. And the reason for that is because no damaging the final boss fight with ammo is kind of inconsistent and weird. Like, I'm not too familiar with it, but in my experience, the final boss fight of this game wouldn't be so bad if the fucking little flying butterflies didn't exist. Holy shit, they kind of ruin everything, because in my normal walkthrough of the game, when I was just playing the game normally, I did this thing where I just baited out like one of Mary's attacks, because Mary, like the final boss fight here, is very similar to the hanging things in like the middle of the hospital, except she's way faster, she's way more aggressive. So what I tend to do is just, I make her bait out an attack, I kind of dodge it, and then I take a couple shots, and that works out beautifully, except when she summons the butterflies. I cannot get a hold on how to avoid the butterflies and also bait out attacks to get like a consistent strategy going with her. It's kind of a mess. And this strategy of just getting rid of all your ammo so that the game beats itself in like 4 to 5 minutes is much easier. However, it's also kind of inconsistent how fast the game beats itself. Because I don't know, I mean, I could have sworn Carcinogen was like, hey, yo, this takes like 7 to 9 minutes. And some other videos are like, oh yeah, it takes like 15 minutes of running around for Mary to defeat herself. But in my video, it took like 3 to 4 minutes. It's not that long. I just ran around like in circles or in squares per se, or in rectangles. You'll see what I mean when we actually get to the final boss fight there. And it only took 3 to 4 minutes. Maybe that's a PC version exclusive thing. I don't know. Maybe the PS2 it takes longer. But the strategy of getting rid of all your ammo and just running around until the boss fight decides to give up is a valid, like, no damage strategy. And it's probably the most consistent one, because running around in squares will always have you like avoiding damage, so on and so forth. I have seen people like defeat the boss fight by shooting it, but honestly at this point in time it was like 3 or 4 a.m. in like the morning, because I really wanted to finish up my no commentary, no damage of the game. I was like, no, I'm locking in, because like the very next day I went to like Universal Horror Nights or whatever. I kind of went through that. I got jump scared. It was kind of disappointing, honestly. Like the previous times when I went when I was younger, it was more impressive. I don't know if COVID affected that. I don't know if I'm just like disillusioned with Blumhouse, because a good majority of the park's theming was just Blumhouse, and also the waiting times for all like the haunted houses at like Universal Horror Nights was pretty fucking crazy. I'll tell you that much. And I kind of ended up in a situation where like for the first 4 to 5 hours, I got into like 2 haunted houses and like maybe 2 to 3 haunted houses, and like the third haunted house was just me doing the second haunted house again, but this time with the full gang, because the first time I entered the haunted house, I wasn't with the full gang, because the full gang was getting on a roller coaster, which I do not fuck with. I'm not a big roller coaster guy, I gotta admit. They're kind of scary. They scare me more than horror games. But then in the last like 1 to 2 hours, I jumped from like 5 to 6 different haunted houses like in quick succession. It was like a rush. I was just running to them, just boom, bam, boom, bam, boom, bam, because, you know, it's late in the night. It's like 1 to 2 a.m., you know, like most of the people have left, and the haunted houses just start speeding up. Even if the wait time tells you, oh, it's 70 minutes, bullshit. 70 minutes is like 30 minutes. 30 minutes is like 15 minutes. 15 minutes is like 2 minutes, like in the last 2 hours of the park. You know, it gets crazy. But enough about that. Let's talk about Crime and Punishment. So, with a lot of these older books, like from 200 years ago, which now have English translations, there's usually like a foreword, which you read before like actually reading the actual book. And there's this one quote that really perplexed me in the foreword of foreword. I mean, I hope you know what I'm talking about when I say the foreword. It's just like a little prelude, which like gives you more context to like the book's history and whatnot. But anyways, this quote really perplexed me. It was like, the first perplexity of criticism is that it must speak monosymatically of the polysemious. And yeah, that foreword, that little quote from the foreword of the 1993 like translation of the book Crime and Punishment, that quote just confuses the fuck out of me, dude. Because like there were just certain words where it's like, what the fuck does like polysemious mean? That's not a real word. You made that up. What's wrong with you? But anyways, I looked up what that means. And it made me like so like, you know, upset and tilted that actually like I rewrote what this quote was saying in a language that just makes me understand it better. So here's how I rewrote that quote to be more understandable to a modern audience. Anyways, here's what the quote is trying to say. Basically, in my own words, it's hard for critics to analyze the book as one definitive idea when so many of the ideas are open-ended and hardly definitive. Like, does that make more sense than the previous thing? Like, I'm not using fucked up words like polysemious. I mean, you know, if you understand the English language, you see poly. Ooh, poly is multiple things. So you can kind of understand what they're saying. Or, ooh, mono is one thing. You know, mono sound. That's like not dual sound. That's not stereo. But still, I think, I fucking hate that word. So that's what made me rewrite that quote to like better understand what's going on. And I have finally gotten rid of all my shotgun ammo. That's like the longest part of like the ammo I'm getting rid of. And now I'm just getting rid of my rifle ammo. Carcinogen did this same thing in his video, except he actually didn't show himself like emptying out the entire ammo. He cut that out of his video, except I included it in my video. My video is like still shorter because, well, I skipped all the cutscenes and all that. Well, a majority of the cutscenes. But I decided to just include this because, well, it's actually very useful. I get to yap and not get in, like, you know, bothered by gameplay mechanics. But I'm going to get rid of all my rifle ammo a lot faster than I will than with a shotgun, because the shotgun animation just lasts longer than the rifle one. The rifle one's just very like, poop, 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 while the shotgun's like, poop. Poo! Poo! You know? And there was this other thing in Crime and Punishment. So, in Crime and Punishment, this is actually a detail I wanted to mention when I was doing the apartment level, but, you know, I got a little bit wrapped up with everything else. But in Crime and Punishment, there's like this focus on a hole in the wall of the main character's like apartment, where he hides like some of the riches he stole from the lady he murdered. And he constantly has to like reach into there, check around, and there's always this focus on like this rotting yellow wallpaper, you know, very like descriptive, you know, it's probably symbolic of something. And in Silent Hill 2, there's like that one section where James has to like reach into this gross green hole, and like they kind of serve different purposes, but there's a little bit of connective tissue there, like thinking about different ideas. It's kind of like weird little disgusting hole. In Crime and Punishment, it's just kind of like a reminder of his guilt, while in Silent Hill 2, it just kind of shows that James is so, you know, there's a word for this, detached from what's happening in the moment, that he's willing to do like the most disgusting shit, like reach into a weird disgusting green hole or reach into a shitty toilet, you know, because like in the beginning of the game he's like so detached. He's like, I don't know, I'm gonna have to find Mary, but he knows that Mary died, but he's still finding Mary. You know, it's just like he doesn't have much to live for, so he just kind of puts himself in like very precarious situations. It's very much like a character building moment for James. So there is that. And also, Crime and Punishment belongs to like this genre of I got this from Wikipedia, this next fact. I got rid of all my ammo, so I'm on the way to the final boss fight here. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do here. I think I'm just double checking that I got rid of all my ammo. I'm going to like drop another save. This is probably like the last save I drop, because, you know, imagine having to like do that 9 minutes of like getting rid of all my ammo every single time I want to like actually, you know, reload a save, redo the whole game, so on and so forth, yada yada. But Crime and Punishment belongs to this genre of like Menippean satire. I don't know how to pronounce this fucking word, I'll tell you that. But it's spelled Menippean. Satire. The genre of Menippean satire is a form of satire, usually in prose, that is categorized by attacking mental attitudes rather than specific individuals or entities. It has been broadly described as a mixture of allegory, picturesque narrative, and satirical commentary. So Silent Hill 2 and Lost Highway, they have a lot of allegory and picturesque narrative. I don't think Silent Hill 2 or like Lost Highway are very satirical, though. That's the thing. I think the satirical angle is very much like only for Crime and Punishment. Now, this little hallway conversation is fantastic. You can skip it. You can like listen to the whole thing. I'm actually going to listen to the whole thing, because a funny detail is that if you go down this hallway with the great knife equipped, like you'll move at a slower pace, but the pace is actually like perfectly matched to how long this conversation goes. So like once you reach the end of the hallway with the great knife, the conversation will be over. But if you go down the hallway without anything equipped, just at your normal walking or running speed, you'll reach the end before the conversation is done. I think listening to this entire conversation like gets you closer to the Mary ending, but for some reason I still got the Maria ending. I guess I didn't check Mary's letter enough or something. I don't know. If you skip this conversation, I think it gets you closer to other endings there. This is a really heartbreaking conversation. It gives you like more context to what's going on here. Just really heartbreaking stuff. And okay, there's this quote, not from Crime and Punishment itself, but I think from the author of Crime and Punishment, where he says something along the lines of, 2 times 2 is 4 is no longer life, gentlemen, but the beginning of death. And the way I interpret that quote is just that, like, for some people, like, finding out the truth doesn't really bring them, like, closer to enlightenment or, like, happiness. It's more like knowing more about the world brings them closer to, like, depression, sadness, suicide. And, like, 2 times 2 equals 4 equaling death is very much, like, in theme. You know, it's very much, like, in tone with Silent Hill 2, Lost Highway, and Crime and Punishment. Because, well, once James figures out that 2 times 2 is 4, once he figured out that he killed his wife, you know, things just start going to the shit, you know, like the guilt starts really like getting at him, you know, it starts like drowning him. And in Crime and Punishment, you know, the closer the other characters get to the truth, well, Crime and Punishment kind of ends on a somewhat bittersweet note. I mean, I don't know if sweet is the right word, but he doesn't end up killing himself. He just goes to jail for 8 years, and 8 years is a reduced sentence. And, like, a lot of sad things do happen. Like, you know, there's a lot of sad deaths. There's also a lot of happy deaths. Like, the people who are big pieces of shit either go away or they end up dying. And it's like, fuck yeah, dude. Fuck that guy. He's dead now. But the main character is still kind of haunted by his, like, actions. But he finds a way to redeem himself somehow. Because he's nowhere near as big of a piece of shit as, like, some of the other people in that book. Mostly just the 2 dudes, which I'm referring to. And, like, remembering. And then 2 plus 2 equals 4 is also very, very much a strategy. It's very, very much a theme in Lost Highway. Very much in Lost Highway. Because Lost Highway has, like, the most cruel fate for its protagonist. Because its protagonist is probably the biggest piece of shit compared to James and Raskolnikov. Like, he's easily the most evil of the 3. Even though James is, like, pretty evil in his own right. I mean, like, he did something pretty similar. It's just that the game gives him more of a chance to, like, redeem himself. And it's like his action is, like, a little bit more complicated than Lost Highway's, like, protagonist, like, motivations. Because James, like, some of his motivations are slightly sympathetic, even though a lot of it is very selfish along the way. But the strategy here, if you have no ammo, is just run in a square over and over and over again. I'm using 2D movement because it's easier to kind of run in a square there, because with 3D movement, I sort of like my thumb kind of like hurts after holding the forward button like for 4 to 3 minutes at a time. So yeah, no, just I'm using 2D movement to just kind of keep going straight, right, straight, right. Watch out for the one hole in the ground that kind of acts like a bit of an invisible wall, and it can kind of fuck up your movements. Sometimes I just kind of go, I cross before reaching that thing, or sometimes I go beyond it and kind of go near the wall. And also don't bump into the walls, because you'll do the bumping animation on hard and I'll fuck you over, and just bumping into the wall will slow you down, which means the bats will catch you. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing for the rest of this video. Then it's like a bunch of cutscenes, credits, so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, spoilers for Lost Highway, but it's a story about how the dude killed his wife. It kind of starts off in a sort of reality where it's just like, you know, the reason he kills his wife is that he doesn't fuck with her much. You know, he can't please her in bed. She's like fucking another guy. He has like a lot of rage inside of him, and then like suddenly he sees this videotape of himself killing his wife, and then like it cuts to him in like prison, and he's like, oh, I didn't kill her. And like the way Lost Highway uses like videotapes is really interesting. It kind of like treats them as a sort of objective truth. And there's like this one very specific quote in Lost Highway. I'll get to it later, but once he goes to jail, he kind of like he transforms into a different person. You're kind of like, what the fuck, did he actually transform into a different person? No, David Lynch movies, they kind of like, some of them have this thing where like the characters enter like a sort of subconscious plane or like a pocket dimension where everything that they don't like isn't there, and they get to be cool. Because in Lost Highway, once he transforms into this other person, suddenly he's like a cool guy. You know, he can like please women, he's good at sex, you know, he has like this femme fatale on the side. You know, he's like a cool guy, he's not like awkward, he's not like, you know, he hasn't, you know, he's doing good for himself, he's a cool kid. But then as the movie goes along, it starts pulling the rug under him, you know, he starts like seeing clues from reality, which start like breaking this false reality. And, you know, as 2 + 2 starts equaling 4, everything starts like exploding and like dissipating. And also like in reality, it seems that he was put on death row. He was gonna get the electric chair, and like this theme of electricity keeps appearing over and over. And like the finale of the movie is him like just like driving away and just like his head's going like fucking crazy, like it's a fucking, like he's a Silent Hill monster or something. Like he's like one of the nurses in the hospital. It's like he's getting electrocuted, and like the electricity is like bringing him back to reality, and like it's all left pretty vague because like David Lynch doesn't really like establish mechanics of how these like pocket dimensions or worlds really work. They basically just leaves it to the viewer to pretty much like feel it out for themselves. And that's like, you know, 2 + 2 = 4 equals, oh, I'm getting electrocuted to death, you know? So yeah. And one very particular thing about Lost Highway is that at the time, like the very first time I wanted to watch Highway for the first time, it was on 0 streaming services, but someone did upload the entire movie on YouTube for free, you know? That's pretty cool, right? There's just one problem. The quality is so ass! And what makes this even worse is that Lost Highway is probably David Lynch's best looking movie! The lighting and cinematography is gorgeous! Peter Demon does terrific work on this production! Fuck, the editing is amazing too! I fucking love the fade-ins! A lot of the scenes are so perfectly timed and framed. Shout out to Mary Sidney, she did an amazing job on this one. And I had the chance to meet her because she was going to a screening of the film at Chicago Music Box Theater. But I fucking missed it. Even forgot why I missed it. The point is, I had to buy a Blu-ray and wait 2 days for it to arrive to see the movie in 1080p quality. And a month later, a 4K Criterion Blu-ray dropped and made me feel like a bozo. Watch Lost Highway at a good fucking quality, or so Lord help you, your experience will be diminished. And you better not see it on your fucking telephone, I'll kill you, motherfucker! Oh. But yeah, no. The 1080p Blu-ray was really good, but I am a little bit sad I don't have that 4K Criterion thing. And at this moment in time, I checked recently, the movie is available on Amazon to stream, so you can like rent a copy, see it there. But back when I wanted to see it, it wasn't available. I got my Blu-ray, and that full upload on YouTube, it's probably still up there. It's like at 240p, 360p quality. It just really is not the good way to watch the movie. It's not worth it. So I just would not recommend doing that. But it seems like Amazon, I didn't actually rent the copy. I didn't like check if their version is good or not. But it should be decent enough. It should be better than the one that's on YouTube. But if you don't really give a fuck, I guess you could. But yeah, just don't watch it on your fucking telephone, alright? Get real. Anyways, so yeah, the Maria ending, I'm actually kind of sad I got the Maria ending because like the cutscene which happens when you get the Mary ending, like either the drowned or the one where you leave, is just so heartbreaking. He like sees her in her hospital bed again, and he's like talking about his motivations for why he killed her, and just like the regret, the guilt, the love. Oh, it's beautiful. While here, holy shit, I just would not buy that James would be like, oh, Maria, I love you. Come on, let's go. However, one thing which I really like about this ending is one of the final like lines he says. Like Maria, when he's going back to his car, like Maria starts coughing, and he's like, you better do something about that cough. And it's said like in a kind of threatening way, you know, it's like the implications of that are like so dark. It's like, fuck, is he gonna kill her again because she's sick too? Like, oh my goodness, dude. It's very like ambiguous stuff. Mind you, Mary still reads like her letter, and like the performance is beautiful. The way she starts breaking up near the end, it's like, oh my goodness, dude. It's crazy shit. But yeah, no, I want to get back to like the guilt of the main character of Crime and Punishment and the guilt and motivations for the murder of like James in this game. they're both kind of ambiguous because basically, like, James cycles between like 3 or 4 different like reasons why he would want to kill Mary. The main character of Crime and Punishment does the same thing for the old lady. You know, he has like 3 to 4 different motivations he says out loud for why he would do it, but he never fully like settles on one. James kind of settles on one, but the main character of Crime and Punishment is kind of left up to the viewer which like motivation does he fully believe, because the main character is kind of lying to himself in certain aspects in Crime and Punishment and all that. So that's just, you know, great book writing, you know, leaving things ambiguous, letting you interpret, making you do more work to understand what's going on. But another thing about Crime and Punishment is that on page 157, there's this like thing that they say where it's like, all by rote, recommending himself, Raskolnikov like said suddenly. It's like, oh, this motherfucker's recommending himself. Look at this dude recommending himself. I just love that little insult there. And also, because the book is in Russia, a lot of like German people do end up showing up in the book. And on page 106, there's this lady who speaks Russian with a German accent. However, I'm reading an English translation, so this lady speaks English with German pronunciation. It was like slightly hard to read. Like, it was literally, it's a translation of a Russian novel, so the way they got across that she speaks German is that she speaks English, but they wrote it like with German pronunciation, like, oh, I must go to this store, and this store goes to this. Yeah, like they just put V's and like D's in like weird areas, and it's just like you kind of have to like interpret. Oh, that's not spelled right. That's just like a very harsh German pronunciation of the word. So that's how they got that across. And Lost Highway is also probably a good connection for Silent Hill 2 because the fucking main guy doesn't act right. He's kind of awkward. He's got a little bit of James-isms in like his performance, but he's like a little bit more like edgy and like not as aloof as James. Like he's kind of threatening because, well, he does end up killing his wife because he's mad that he's like inadequate and she's cheating on him, so on and so forth. And Lost Highway, I mean, I kind of already alluded to this in the past, but Lost Highway has like its own version of Silent Hill-ish. Or rather, like an undefined, like netherworld parallel to reality. And in this other dimension, like I mentioned before, just a lot has changed, but there's still clues that drag the protagonist back to the reality in like the most agonizing way. And, you know, the two things, they serve different purposes in like the different media, but the storytelling methods have some overlap. Like I'm thinking about like the dead body James finds in the apartment, like in the very first level of the game, like the one with the red coat. In the making of documentary of Silent Hill 2, they say, oh yeah, that model is James. Like, it's literally James's model. They just used it again to fuck with the player. They didn't like go further and saying like, oh, this symbolizes so-and-so. They just did that to kind of fuck with you, but it already puts into your mind that, oh, this is kind of like the story of a dead man, maybe. If you get a certain ending, that's exactly what happens, you know? I mean, you might be like going towards like the character committing suicide. So that already kind of puts the idea in your head. It starts fucking with you psychologically. I don't know, it's really neat. Anyways, back to Crime and Punishment. This is the thing I wanted to mention about Lost Highway. I just had the note here. Actually, for my second day of recording, I kind of reorganized my notes to make it easier for me, like today. In Crime and Punishment, page 44, there's this quote which says, by like the main character's best friend, where he says, "But facts are not everything. At least half the game is knowing how to handle the facts." And that line reminds me a lot of a line from Lost Highway, where the main character is like, "I like to remember things my own way. How I remember them, not necessarily the way they happened." And he says this after they ask him why he doesn't like video cameras. So he likes to pretty much like drown himself in his own subjective reality. And well, a lot of the characters in Silent Hill 2 are kind of like drowning themselves in their own like foggy, weird reality. And to be fair, the town is kind of doing it to them. While on Lost Highway, it's very much like self-inflicted by the main character onto himself. And now we're going to get to something a lot more serious. I'm going to quote something a lot more serious here. Get ready. This is a really serious subject, okay? Crime and Punishment, page 216. Here's the quote. "The expression of her face was always serious and thoughtful, rather than gay." Her laughter. Gay, young, wholehearted. Okay, I'm just fucking with you. The reason they call it gay is because gay back then meant happy. So whenever you're like translating these old books, you know, the word gay will pop up, and it means happy. It doesn't mean like homosexual. The sister isn't homosexual in the book. There's no inclination that she likes women that way. She ends up marrying the main character's best friend. Spoiler alerts, because the main character's best friend, he could get a little bit angry, but honestly, he kind of got angry pretty justifiably, because the main character in Crime and Punishment, I want to get back to the themes of sex and death, because, well, In Silent Hill, there's like repressed like sexual urges, which James had because his wife was in the hospital. So like the fucked up nurses like do a really great job at like displaying that, because compared the nurse designs to like the ones in Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill 2, they serve two different purposes, because like, you know, this town is like summoning them from two different people, two different perspectives. And the death, you know, I mean, there's fucked up death monsters. Like every character seems like on a path to death. You reach like the graveyard, and like the gravestones have Angela, Eddie, and James's names all under. It's like they all did like a horrible crime, which, you know, the town is kind of condemning them to death for. There was that amazing line there. You better do something about that cough. Just such a brutal line. Anyways, here's the credits. I decided to kind of include them. I mean, the video's like short enough as it is compared to Carcinogen, so I thought I might as well include the entire credits. And also, since I'm playing the Enhanced Edition mod, the credits are actually going to go on for longer and include the names of the people who worked on the Enhanced Edition mod. So yeah, I really wanted to mention that. Also, I skipped the cutscene, which has the one voice acting, which I found kind of weird. Basically, I'm talking about the cutscene where like the two pyramid heads show up before James, and you know, like they kill Maria for like the last time there, or like the second to last time, and James is like, "I know who you are. You know, you're here to punish me." Okay, the line reading there, I really like that one. It's the one where he's like, "Stop! Leave her alone! No, leave us both the hell alone! Mugatu!" He sounds like fucking Ben Stiller Zoolander. It kills the moment for me. Like, if you didn't notice it before, like, just, you ever see fucking Zoolander where he's like, Mugatu, no! He sounds like that when he shouts. Honestly, the first time I played the game, I thought he sounded a bit like Eric Cartman, but it's honestly the voice, like, the whenever he, like, shouts really loud in that scene, it is closer to sounding like Zoolander Ben Stiller. Like, oh man, dude, it's just like the voice acting is on it. I think works really fantastic, but that one scene kind of kills it for me a little. That's a really dramatic moment, but then like the line afterwards, he's like kneeling on the ground. I love the way that's framed. I love the way like the lighting plays off like the in-engine character. Oh, it looks beautiful, man. But man, fucking Mugatu. Anyways, to continue on, there's this one point in my outline which honestly doesn't really have like much saying or like reason to be here, but anyways, Crime and Punishment has this one beginning section with this pathetic drunk man. He's like Marlamont. His name starts with an M. And then like, it continues with like a letter from his mother, and I mentioned the letter before, and the main protagonist's like reaction to it. And while reading the book, I was wondering if the pathetic drunk man was gonna make like a comeback, and then like on page 48, he remembers like his quote, and the drunk man told him this. He told him, "Do you understand? Do you understand, my dear sir, what it means when there is no longer anywhere to go?" And like that's really a theme that I think like encapsulates like Silent Hill 2 and Lost Highway. Just like these characters just like lose their place to go. I mean, I don't really know how to elaborate on that. Just kind of like let that sit in your brain for a little bit. But that pathetic drunk man, he actually shows up and he's a very important character like much later in the story. One thing which Crime and Punishment does really well, I mean it is a great book, is just like, you know, a character will get introduced. Like the first part I was kind of struggling to get into it because I'm kind of like, well, what's the purpose of all this? But like by the end of part 1 onwards, I think the book gets a really good like forward momentum, and it just kind of keeps going and going. And then when you kind of get tired of one plot point, a previous plot point you weren't thinking about for so long just comes up when you least expect it. It's like, oh fuck, it's here now. Oh fuck, and it just that develops, and then another thing develops, and another thing develops, and it just keeps going at a nice pace, and I really, really like it. And another really great thing about Crime and Punishment is that the main character's best friend has this very iconic phrase. He keeps telling him to spit on it. Spit on that thing. Yeah, no, in modern era, that phrase means something completely different, but I'm pretty sure that the way the book intends it, it's like an old English phrase, you know, the way they translated it. What he's really saying is just saying fuck all that. Like the way he would say spit on it, he's like, man, spit on it. Though, but what he really means is like, man, fuck all that. He tends to say this phrase when the main character starts yapping about some bullshit. He's kind of like, man, fuck all that. You stupid. You're dumb. Like, get the fuck out of here. You're crazy, dude. But yeah, like the main character of Crime and Punishment, I don't think he really deals with like repressed like sexual urges. He's just repressed in general because he's like a weird shut-in who gets very irritable about everything around him. So it makes him like very standoffish like the rest of the cast. And yeah, no, just yapping about Crime and Punishment while the credits play out. I'm gonna keep doing it. Another thing about Crime and Punishment is that on page 352, like, Porphy, like, I'm listening to your conversation. How could you be instantly ceasing to laugh? How dare you subject your listener to such fool trickery? Now cease your cursed laughter. And anyways, back to Lost Highway. Like I mentioned before, Lost Highway already makes videotapes a main focus of its story. And Silent Hill 2, near the end, starts revolving around a certain videotape that reveals the truth, while in Lost Highway, like I mentioned before, it kind of resembles a sort of objective truth compared to the protagonist constantly shifting subjective memory. And like, you know, one of the big confrontations of like the final minutes of Lost Highway revolves around the weird fucking like mystery man being like, now your name, what the fuck is your name? Like he's like pointing a video camera at him, he's like forcing him to confront the objective truth of the situation. He's like not letting him hide in his fantasy anymore. And like by that point in the movie, he's not like the cool guy anymore. He's like transformed back into his normal self. And also, here's a random tidbit. Honestly, from some reviews I saw on Letterboxd, I think some people criticized David Lynch for not having like many black characters throughout his film. And while watching Lost Highway or rewatching it recently, it's got a good number of them, but none of them are main leads. They're just kind of like in the background. You know, they're kind of like see-through, like a fog per se. And I want to jump back to Crime and Punishment because there's this one quote in like the foreword, which kind of like preps you for what's going to happen in Crime and Punishment, that they said in the foreword, they kind of like prep you by saying, evil is a final ambiguity. No one calls it by name. And that's said in the foreword, despite on page 12 of the real book being like describing something as evil smelling. Oops, they literally mentioned evil there, but maybe that's just a translation thing, and that wasn't true in the Russian text, so on and so forth. I'm gonna like speed run through the rest of what I gotta say here because there's only like a minute or two left. Ooh, on page 115 of Crime and Punishment, there's like this sign with the phrase "No loitering here" with a citation to the notes for more context. Because it's an old book, there's certain things you wouldn't get on the first read, so they put like little notes and citations that you can kind of like flip to at the end of the book to get more context. And I thought this phrase was pretty straightforward, so I don't know what context they were going to add, but the context was just that they were talking about like a real life place which the author went to, and he actually took his wife there, so that's what the context of that is. I was like, I'm like, what? I don't know why I need to know that, but okay. I really love the music that plays at the game results screen. I wanted to include it. It's beautiful. It just makes you feel so complete and satisfied, like you're done with the journey. Like it's beautiful. It's beautiful stuff. I really wanted to include it there. And I think one of the final notes I gotta give a shout out to is that on page 119 of Crime and Punishment, there's this insult the main character throws at someone. They call him a chimney sweep. And there we go. I think this is my No Damage of Silent Hill 2 on hard. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all then for my next Silent Hill No Damage or another No Damage of another type. Peace out. One more thing, actually. I forgot to get to a couple topics, so let's get to them right now. So throughout this entire No Damage run, every time I entered a new room where the game would fade in, fade out of places, in the bottom right corner, you can see Activate Windows show up for a brief second every single time. And there's actually a very specific reason for this. It's because in OBS, I actually had to change the way I recorded this game. Usually, I would record my games using the game capture feature in OBS, and that would work, and it wouldn't show the Activate Windows thing on the bottom right corner of my screen. It just wouldn't. However, for this game, game capture does not pick up Silent Hill Director's Cut PC Edition because from what I've seen online, the game is just too old to be captured as a game. So I instead had to use Windows Capture. And thankfully, Window Capture doesn't capture the Activate Windows thing when I'm playing the game, but whenever the game would fade in, fade out, it would just kind of fade in, fade out all the same. That explains that. A second thing is I did not establish how cool the motorhome is. I love the motorhome in this game. It's got such a comfy vibe, and also like for that section of the game where I go to that save point where everything's like so oppressive and scary and like it's just a nice little area. It's just like Silent Hill 2 has that fantastic quality of having really detailed small areas you don't stay in long, but if you want you could just kind of linger there and just look at the artistry on display. I love that little motorhome. It's very comfy to me. And third thing, and the most negative, I wanted to bring up some allegations about Lost Highway and two of the main actors in it. Well, the other one's not really a main actor, but Marlon Manson, Robert Blake, they're both in the movie. Marlon Manson is fucking weird and disturbing, and I don't mean that from like a 90s perspective where it's like, oh, he dresses in all black, oh, he's satanic. No, I mean it like he's weird with women. He's fucking weird with women. Like he has like a fucking room which is like soundproof so that whenever he brings a woman there, they can't scream for help. He's fucking weird. Like I'm sure he has some allegations of some fucked up shit. Robert Blake, from what I've seen and like research, I didn't do too much research, mind you, he killed his wife. He just killed his fucking wife, and he had to pay like $30 million to the family because in the first court case, he was acquitted, and then like a civil court was like, no, you killed your fucking wife, dude. So that kind of gives a cursed energy to Lost Highway, and it kind of like dates it. honestly, Lost Highway in general is a bit one of the more dated David Lynch films. Some of the music drops kind of like take me out of it. Like on its Lost Highway, I mean, I think there's a lot to love in the movie. I think it's his best looking movie, edited fantastically. But it's kind of hard to get into. It is like one of the more obtuse films of his. But yeah, thank you so much for watching my Silent Hill 2 No Damage video, and I'll see you all then for my next No Damage. Peace out. For real this time. No jump scares. Yes.